This loser thought transferring schools would finally give him a break from getting his ass handed to him every day. Turns out luck hates him because the new school isn't peaceful at all. It's basically a hentai convention disguised as high school, where students punch, kick, and sometimes grind on each other like it's some weird cardio class. Meanwhile, our loser spent years getting roasted, stomped, and slapped around like the universe's personal dildo. Now he's tossed into a meat grinder of sweaty fights, bruises, and kids who fight harder than they flirt. Can he survive without getting bent over by every random thug with Diddy oil, finally land some hits of his own, and claw his way out of the school's nightmare-level fighting arena? It all starts with our loser boy Gilso riding in the car, glued to his phone like it's a life support system. His fingers are flying over the screen, completely ignoring his dad yelling from the front seat. Mom tries to step in, giving him the sharp, "I'm serious" tone, but he's deep in game mode, probably imagining himself as some hero instead of the sad, weak potato he feels like. Through the rearview mirror, his father glances back, and that's when something shifts in Gilso's expression. His eyes look different somehow as one thought keeps looping through his head on repeat. His dad must be ashamed of having such a weak, pathetic son. All those moments of getting bullied flash through his mind like a highlight reel he can't turn off. His mother speaks again, this time sounding irritated, telling him that if kids at the new school hit him or mess with him again, he should just leave. She insists she doesn't want him under any pressure, that he should live however feels comfortable. Gilso mutters something under his breath, calling her a liar. He remembers clearly that his mom was crying and begging for the school transfer. Now she's the one saying he can quit whenever. She's the one who wanted them to move in the first place. Eventually, the game ends in Gilso losing. He puts the phone down and stares silently out the window. A dark thought creeps into his mind. Maybe he should just end his life. As they pull into Gates High School, his heart starts pounding hard in his chest. The moment he steps inside, all he can think about is running away. He wishes something would happen. Some disaster, maybe even North Korea invading. Anything to get him out of this. Standing in front of the classroom, he hesitates before managing to get the words out. He introduces himself as Gilso, mentions that he is from Seoul, and notes that this is his first time studying here. He lowers his head and mutters that it is nice to meet everyone. Deep down, he wishes time would freeze in that moment. No more awkwardness, no more tension. Then something unexpected happens. Applause fills the classroom. The students actually seem excited to see him, welcoming him with what looks like genuine warmth. Some call out welcomes, others smile and say nice things. Everyone seems genuinely friendly. One boy whispers to his fellow about how they finally got someone from Seoul in their class. Another one laughs and tells him not to act like some country bumpkin. Someone else calls out, inviting Gilso to sit with them. Gilso stands there shocked, realizing that they actually seem nice. After the bell rings, one of the boys approaches him directly, calling him the new kid. Gilso looks at him cautiously and responds quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. But inside his head, flashbacks start flooding in, scenes of past bullying replaying like some nightmare he can't escape. He remembers a boy yelling at him about bringing the wrong kind of bread, threatening him, asking if he wanted to die. But this time, the boy's tone comes out friendly. He places a hand on Gilso's shoulder and introduces himself as Jin, acknowledging that being new means not being used to things yet. He suggests going to the convenience store, offering to show Gilso around the school. Gilso, still tense and nervous, agrees to go along. Outside the store, holding a juice box, Gilso finds himself thinking something that hits him hard. This is literally the first time he's casually gone to a store with someone like this, like an actual friend. Jin starts laughing and points toward his friend, making some joke about the guy's eyebrows. Gilso looks confused, not really getting it. Meanwhile, Jin keeps going, joking around about how that's why the friend's girlfriend dumped him. Gilso cracks a faint smile and jokes that the eyebrows are kind of charming. Jin fires back, teasing that Gilso must have terrible eyesight. The friend snaps at Jin, telling him to worry about his own face first. Gilso watches the students around him, everyone laughing, chatting, casually throwing their arms around each other. Everyone looks so genuinely happy. The thought crosses his mind that maybe, just maybe, he could feel that way too someday. Then he accidentally bumps into someone, and juice spills all over the guy's shirt. The boy reacts, pointing out that it got all over him. Gilso immediately panics, apologizing frantically and offering to pay for dry cleaning, saying he'll see him in class. But the boy just smiles, pats Gilso's shoulder and tells him it's fine, though he appreciates the offer. Then he just walks away like it's no big deal. Seeing that, Gilso stands there stunned. The guy was so kind about it. The thought starts forming in his mind that maybe he can actually live a normal life here. Back in class, Gilso closes his bag and decides that's enough for today. He thinks back on the classroom vibe, where everyone was so chill, so genuinely friendly. He realizes he was probably scared for no reason. A bit of relief washes over him as he thinks that maybe moving here was actually a good thing. Soon, Jin approaches and inquires about Gilso's plans for the day. Gilso admits he does not have any. Jin smiles and proposes that Gilso accompany him somewhere, to which our boy agrees. Outside, as they walk together, Gilso starts thinking about how they've been walking for quite a while now, wondering where Jin is taking him. He questions Jin about it, pointing out that this place seems pretty far. Jin smiles and explains that he wants to show him a special place, that whenever a new student joins, going there is basically a requirement. Gilso hesitates for a moment, then decides he should just go along with it. He turns back toward the city lights and suddenly realizes just how far they've walked from the inner city. Jin suddenly questions if Gilso has ever tried boxing. Gilso admits he has never. Jin laughs softly and warns him that he will need a bit of courage, noting that they are almost there. As they walk, Gilso notices bruises covering Jin's body. The sight brings back memories of his old school. The bullying, the fear, everything flooding back. He begins to worry that it might be happening again, and hesitates. When he stops, Jin notices and asks about it. He stops for a moment, forces a smile and suggests that he should probably go now, maybe some other time. As Gilso turns to leave, Jin places a hand on his shoulder and reassures him that they are almost there, insisting he take a look, he will love it. Gilso hesitates but ends up following anyway. Together they arrive at this large factory-like building. Bright lights glow from inside the place. A sudden thought strikes Gilso that it was all a lie. The sweetness, the smiles, maybe it was all fake. Maybe he's about to get oiled up all over again. But as soon as the door opens, what he sees leaves him completely stunned. In the middle of a huge fighting ring, two boys are boxing while the crowd all around them screams at the top of their lungs. The air is filled with shouts, the sound of punches landing, bodies dodging, and pure adrenaline pumping through everything. Gilso just stands there frozen. Noticing his reaction, Jin smiles and leans slightly closer, inquiring if he is truly shocked by what he sees. He explains that this is their school's fighting arena, their biggest privilege, only for their students. As Gilso stands there in disbelief, a voice shouts from the crowd, calling out to them. Jin grins and tells Gilso, that's the president of Six Gates High, Jang. Jang looks at Jin and questions who he has brought along. Jin clarifies that Gilso just transferred today and is in his class. Gilso glances at Jang, noting how absolutely terrifying he looks, and wonders if this guy is really just a high school student. In the boxing ring, the boy with thick, heavy eyebrows points at Jin and yells that he's coming for him, insisting he will teach Jin not to make fun of his eyebrows. Gilso is pretty shocked seeing Jin getting ready for the fight, when suddenly the same heavy voice greets him. It's the same tall guy, introducing himself as Jang, the president of the Six Gates High Student Council. As soon as Gilso sees him, only one thought runs through his head, that this guy is huge. All around them boys cheer and shout. They're fighting, but somehow they still look like friends. Jang laughs loudly, noting that this year's freshmen seem interesting. Meanwhile, Gilso keeps wondering who this guy really is. Jang explains that this is the real face of their school. Seeing Gilso's confused expression, he continues, clarifying that there's no bullying here, but there is violence, and it only happens inside this ring. Gilso reels at the revelation while Jang locks eyes with him and acknowledges that Gilso has probably been through a lot. He emphasizes that the school is for people who stand equal in the face of violence. Gilso stares at the ring, repeating the words in his head that they are equal, in the face of violence. Then Jang lays out the rules. Rule 1 states that only Six Gates High students may enter. Graduates, dropouts, and expelled students are banned. Rule 2 specifies that every fight is one-on-one, and that no weapons are allowed. Rule 3 declares that the Student Guidance Council serves as referees and decides when a fight ends. With this, he rests a hand on Gilso's shoulder. Suddenly, another voice calls out, asking if the new kid has arrived and where he's been. Gilso turns to see the boy he met earlier, who signals him to come up as they need to settle the cleaning fee. Jang chuckles, noting that Gilso's opponent is already ready, and suggesting he learn while he fights. Gilso tenses, trying to object while Jang continues with Rule 4 that violence outside the arena is strictly forbidden. Any conflict must be settled in the ring. Most importantly, he urges Gilso not to be afraid and to embrace the fight. Now Gilso stands alone in the center of the ring, his heart pounding as the noise of the crowd presses in on him. As he looks around, memories flash through his mind. He recalls being bullied every single day, feeling powerless and afraid. A wave of doubt hits him, and he wonders how he's supposed to find any enjoyment in a fight, especially against an opponent like this. Just then, the instructor raises a hand, signaling that everything is ready and the match is about to begin. Before the match begins, a few boys nearby start whispering. One comments that the transfer student is incredibly unlucky, having to face Kang on his very first day. Another, surprised, asks if Kang is popular, noting he still looks like a first year. The first explains that Kang is the younger brother of a student who just joined the school this year. Kang yells at the transfer student, challenging him to step forward, and warning that he would have gone easy since it's his first fight. Gilso stands frozen, trembling, and questions why he even agreed to this in the first place. Seeing his hesitation, Kang takes a step closer and threatens that if Gilso doesn't move, he'll come to him himself. Without warning, he rushes forward, ready to strike, but then something completely unexpected happens. The boys around them gasp in shock as a loud retching sound suddenly echoes through the arena. Everyone turns to see that the femboy has just vomited on Kang, leaving him in utter disbelief. Kang screams in fury, cursing loudly, while the nearby boys shout for the fight to stop. From the crowd, another voice bursts out laughing, joking about the vomit attack and marveling at the transfer student's completely unexpected skills. Gilso remains on his knees, hands covered in vomit, thinking about how someone like him, who has never hit anyone before, could ever hurt another person. He can't do this. Later in the bathroom, two boys talk. One admits he skipped the fight yesterday but heard it was wild. The other shakes his head that he missed out on the new kid vomiting and the crowd going insane. Meanwhile, Gilso crouches in a stall, silent, listening, and a sinking feeling spreads through him. He thought this was supposed to be a normal school. As the boys move past, one suggests a few rounds after school, and the other nods, craving the thrill. After they leave, Gilso reflects on what this fighting arena really is. He recalls Jang's words, "Don't be scared, just enjoy it," but he knows he can't even lift his hand to hit someone. Then the thought hits him that violence isn't allowed in school. What if he simply refuses to go to the fighting arena? Meanwhile, in the classroom, Jang powers through push-ups with two boys sitting heavily on his back, sweat dripping from his brow. As Gilso walks in, his jaw drops, completely stunned by the display. Jang laughs loudly, shouting that he's finally reached 1,000 push-ups and joking that next time he'll take 3 boys on at once. Pause. Gilso can only stare, unable to believe someone like this could be a high schooler. Noticing him, Jang locks eyes with Gilso, daring him to speak. After a brief hesitation, Gilso admits that he wants to know more about the fighting arena. The room immediately bursts into teasing, the boys laughing and jeering at his curiosity. Jang joins in, mocking him further by hinting that Gilso only has one real talent, and that's vomiting. A boy at the back cheers loudly, calling him Vomit Boy and claiming a kind of fandom after yesterday's chaos. Another boy shouts to see if he'll be showing up again today. Gilso bows his head, shaking it firmly, and declares that he won't enter the arena anymore. Hearing this, silence falls over the room like a hammer. Jang folds his arms, unimpressed, and points out that Gilso isn't even injured, implying that his retreat is purely out of fear rather than necessity. Gilso shrugs, claiming that he doesn't want to hit anyone and doesn't even find any fun in something like that. Hearing that, Jang steps close, grips his face, revealing that this means he can hit Gilso without limits. Gilso freezes, confused, while Jang moves aside and announces to the room that as school president, Gilso is officially outside the protection of the fighting arena. Gilso just stands there with disbelief written across his face. As Jang leaves, he sits in class with his head buzzing with thoughts about the protection of the arena, wondering what it even means. What kind of school is this? Soon Kang sneaks up behind him, scans the classroom, and confirms he's the new kid who refuses the arena. Our boy also recognizes them as the same guys from yesterday. Without warning, the boy shoves Gilso's head onto the desk, grinning. He leans in, claiming Gilso as his slave, and promising to teach him what life outside the arena really looks like. The rest of the class chats and laughs as if nothing is happening. The boy lifts Gilso's head and drives a knee into his face, sending him sprawling to the floor. A boy nearby smirks, calling it a clean knee strike. Another laughs, mentioning he heard Gilso transferred here because he got beaten up at his old school. The attacker looks down at Gilso, amused. He mocks him, claiming he could tell from the first punch that Gilso is the type to get beaten up. Then, in front of everyone, he orders him to show up at his class every break. Still on the floor, Gilso finally understands what Jang meant, that the protection of the fighting arena isn't about safety, it's a shield. Without it, violence is one-sided. It's only allowed against you. The boy keeps kicking him while Gilso sits there, realizing the truth. His downfall has begun all over again. After the beating, our kid goes straight to the staff room and reveals to his teacher that he wants to drop out, which surprises the teacher since it's happening after just a week. Gilso sits at his desk, explaining that he's already focusing on his exams and that it's what matters most. The teacher sighs, unable to change his mind, and tells him to do what he thinks is best. Gilso lowers his head with guilt pressing heavy on his chest. He's tried everything, but it wasn't enough. His parents don't deserve a failure like him. As he walks out of the school building, a quiet thought settles in. His nightmare is finally over. Starting tomorrow, life goes back to normal. Just as he thought it was over, Jang appears in front of him. His expression is sharp, his tone demanding, questioning why Gilso isn't fighting and what his problem is. Gilso flinches, caught off guard, and apologizes to the school president, though in his mind he knows someone obsessed with fighting would never understand. Looking down, he admits the truth that he has trauma. He was beaten mercilessly at his last school and reached his limit. He just wants to quit, but he really did try. Jang's grip lands on Gilso's shoulder, and with his angry voice, he calls Gilso even more pathetic than he had imagined. Meanwhile, Gilso stands frozen, stunned by the venom in his words. Jang scoffs at the idea that anyone needs to be a pro fighter. Skill doesn't matter. If someone has no teeth, they fight with their gums. No strength, fight with guts. That's what a real fight looks like. Gilso stares with disbelief written across his face, while Jang steps closer, gripping his collar, growling that right now, Gilso doesn't even have the courage to protect himself. Tears prick Gilso's eyes as he wonders why Jang is doing this, what he could have done wrong. Rage laces Jang Chung's words as he fires a warning that life outside isn't all rainbows and sunshine. Quit now, and Gilso will stay a loser forever. Later, Gilso walks down the street, lost in thought, when a voice calls from behind. He turns to see Kang and his friends blocking the way. Kang laughs, mocking Gilso for trying to leave school without telling anyone, and Gilso's chest tightens at the thought of how they even know. Kang steps closer, reminding him that leaving won't change anything. Someone has to be his punching bag. And ever since Jang started the fighting arena, he hasn't had a single one. His tone hardens, a hand pressing onto Gilso's shoulder, signaling that running won't end anything. Night falls. Kang and his friends drag Gilso into an alley, beating him without mercy. One laughs at how solid a toy he makes. Another sneers, calling him the biggest loser among the 6 gates. Blood trickles down Gilso's face with his body trembling, his mind screaming that he can't take much more. Meanwhile, Kang's laughter echoes behind him, reminding him he should consider himself lucky, because back when his brother ran the old 6 gates, Gilso would already be dead. Lighting a cigarette, Kang glances at his phone, checking the address his boys had given him. Hearing about the address, Gilso freezes with his eyes widening in panic. Kang grins, noting that Gilso lives somewhere fancy, then shouts the full address for everyone to hear, claiming that they'll meet there next time. Since Gilso refuses the arena, Kang smirks, claiming they'll have to catch up elsewhere. Hearing that, Gilso struggles to rise, but the others grab him, dragging him down. Panic sets in as he realizes how much danger his address has put him in. Kang leans in with his phone raised, signaling that Gilso better hold still, or else a picture of his battered face will be sent to everyone. Tears blur Gilso's vision, as he questions why this is happening, what he ever did to deserve it. He thought it was over. He believed the hellish chapter of his life had ended, but now it feels like an endless pit swallowing him whole. Every time he tries to climb out, the boys drag him back down, harder each time. Helpless, bleeding, and terrified, he wonders what he can do to escape this living nightmare. Just then, Jang's words echo in Gilso's mind, about not needing to be a pro fighter and fighting with guts. That last line hits him hardest right now that he doesn't even try to protect himself. Kang grips Gilso's face with his phone raised. He laughs at Gilso's screams and tells the others to hold him tighter, because it's hilarious. Tears sting Gilso's eyes as panic and anger collide. He can't understand why this keeps happening. Instinct takes over as Gilso snatches Kang's phone and flings it across the alley where it shatters on the ground. Fury surges through him while his mind spins, wondering what he even did wrong, as Kang yells at the others, furious that Gilso escaped and destroyed his phone. Still pinned, Gilso recalls Jang's lesson that guts matter more than strength, and instinct drives him again. He bites Kang's hand, drawing blood and forcing a scream, holding on with pure defiance. Kang slams him into the ground, clutching his wounded hand, rage dripping from every movement. Gilso sits there, blood on his lips and eyes blazing, daring Kang to feel the pain, claiming that even if he dies, he'll take Kang down with him. Kang is shocked and enraged that a rat like Gilso dared to bite back. He orders his boys to grab him, but Gilso refuses to go down easily. He fights back, throwing punches while remembering Kang's words about not needing to be a pro to fight, which gives him the confidence to do whatever he can. Seeing the bruise on his hand shocks Kang, and he orders his men to take Gilso down. As they charge at him, Gilso bolts, using the chaos to his advantage. In the next scene, Gilso steps into the fighting arena with determination written across his face. He looks straight at the school president and signals that he's ready to fight. Behind him, his bullies have already gathered, waiting eagerly to see him fail. From the sidelines, Jang watches with a faint smile, realizing that this kid is far more interesting than he initially thought. As the arena hums with anticipation, Gilso and Kang face each other across the ring, the crowd's murmurs adding to the tension. Nearby, a student named Park mutters that if he were in Kang's place, he'd finish the fight quickly. Another boy places a hand on his shoulder, warning him to stay quiet. The three of them exchange uneasy glances toward Jang, knowing they may have pushed things too far. Without warning, the fight begins. Kang drives a sharp kick into Gilso's stomach, forcing him to double over, and follows up with a punch that sends him stumbling aside. Smirking cruelly, Kang lands another hit squarely on Gilso's face. Blood spills from his mouth as he crashes to the floor, dazed and gasping for air. Hovering over him, Kang stands with disdain, mocking Gilso's pesky attempt to fight back. But even lying there, Gilso lifts his head and meets Kang's gaze with his eyes burning with quiet defiance. Kang notices the look in his eyes and growls furiously, demanding to know how he dares to look at him like that and telling him to lower his eyes. Kang slaps him hard across the face and continues saying that losers like him who forget their place and try to climb higher, this is what happens to them. Kang keeps striking Gilso, mocking him to stay in his place if he's such a loser. Each blow lands harder than the last until a final kick sends Gilso crashing into the arena wires. The freshmen watching whisper in shock, some saying Kang's cruelty is unreal while others wonder if Gilso might actually die at this rate. Kang pauses for a moment, catching his breath and wondering if he went too far, but before he can think more, Gilso starts to rise. Kang stares in disbelief, unable to understand how he's still moving after that beating. He steps closer, threatening him to stay down, but Gilso only meets his gaze and dares him to go ahead. For a second, Kang freezes, stunned by the resistance. Then Gilso's eyes flash red and his whole demeanor shifts. He grabs Kang by the hips and drives him backward with raw force, shouting that after all the pain he's endured, death would be easier than this. The slam shakes the ground as Kang hits the floor. Seeing that, the crowd erupts, some gasping that the weak kid actually has moves, others laughing at how fast the tide just turned. Meanwhile, Kang grunts, realizing he let his guard down at the worst moment. Gilso draws back for another hit, but Kang reacts first and lands a punch square across his face. With this, he mocks Gilso for thinking he could win with such weak punches. Fueled by anger, Gilso remembers Jang's words about using willpower and guts when strength isn't enough. Then, without hesitation, he slams his head into Kang's face, and blood bursts from Kang's nose. The freshmen erupt, amazed that Gilso actually has fight in him. Jang also watches quietly, noting that when adrenaline takes over, pain fades, though Gilso's body is already close to its limit. To him, this boy Gilso feels different. Back in the ring, Kang regains his stance and kicks Gilso back, standing tall as he taunts him. But Gilso rises again, staring him down coldly. He wonders if this is really the strength of the bullies he's feared all this time. The crowd begins cheering for him, and their voices push him forward. With all that in mind, Gilso charges ahead, determined to strike, realizing he has nothing to fear anymore. Just as his punch closes in, Kang's uppercut lands first, slamming into Gilso's chin and throwing him off balance. The blow sends him crashing to the ground. The arena falls silent for a moment before the announcer declares Kang the winner. Kang walks away, leaving Gilso lying motionless on the floor. Hours later, Gilso slowly wakes up, disoriented and sore, realizing he must have blacked out during the fight. He thinks about how he tried his best, that all he wanted was to hit Kang at least once. He reflects on his mistakes, how he should have read Kang better, taken his time, maybe aimed lower like he did before. But deep down, even through the pain, he knows he gave it everything he had. Frustration builds inside Gilso as he wishes he were stronger. Just then, Jang appears before him, and Gilso quickly gets to his feet. Jang notes that he seems to be doing better, mentioning that as student council president, it's his job to check on students who collapse during matches. He reminds Gilso that the arena isn't meant for anyone to die in. It exists to protect students. Hearing that, Gilso lowers his head. As Jang turns to leave, he adds that this will be the last time Gilso can be here, since starting tomorrow, he's no longer a student of Six Gates High School. Gilso remembers that he already applied to drop out, but something in him resists the thought. Jang nods and tells him to take care, but before he can walk away, Gilso calls out and asks what he has to do to become stronger. Jang pauses with a hint of surprise crossing his face, before he laughs lightly. He excitedly tells Gilso that helping weak students is also part of his job, but he wonders if Gilso is truly ready for what that means. Before Gilso can respond, Jang suddenly steps forward and drives a punch straight into his stomach. Blood bursts from Gilso's mouth as he collapses, gasping for breath. As the boy crouches beside him, Jang explains that this is only the beginning, and that one day he'll be strong enough to dodge a punch like that. Gilso stays on the ground, silent and trembling, thinking about how his entire school life has been spent in the way of others. He gets a flashback of his first year of middle school, when he was playing with his friends and a stray slipper came flying toward him. The boys quickly apologize, asking if Gilso is okay. He gives a weak smile and insists he's fine, but inside he knows that moment changed him. That was the day he realized how powerless he really was, all because of something as small as a slipper. Suddenly, one of the boys hits him, demanding the money he was supposed to bring every week. The rest join in, throwing punches and insults. One says anyone who doesn't listen deserves to be beaten, while another laughs about how Gilso doesn't even have the courage to talk back anymore. They keep hitting him, shouting that next week he better bring double the amount. As the blows keep coming, Gilso's thoughts blur with pain. He realizes how weak he's become, unable to defend himself at all. Coming back to the present, he stands before Jang once again. Determination burns in his eyes as he begs to be trained, admitting he can't live like this anymore. Jang gives a faint smile, remarking that it's his responsibility to make weak students stronger. After his first class, Gilso walks out holding his side, feeling like Jang might have actually broken one of his ribs. He remembers being told to come back after the break to do it all again, and that thought alone makes him realize how intense this training is, but also how it's slowly making him stronger. Lost in thought, he's suddenly called out by a friend who's surprised to see him still around after submitting his dropout form. When Gilso mentions that he's decided to stay, his friend can't help but smile, thinking maybe this kid's finally growing some courage. As they talk, Kang shows up with his gang, mocking Gilso for returning and throwing a few taunting remarks his way. On his way past, Kang leans in and mutters a quiet threat meant only for Gilso to hear, before walking off with a smirk. The words hit hard, but instead of fear, they spark anger inside Gilso. He clenches his fists, determined that one day he'll be strong enough to make Kang pay for every humiliation he's ever faced. During break time, Gilso is shown facing Jang, who's mercilessly training him through brutal punches. Each hit lands hard, forcing Gilso to stay conscious and focused even as blood spills from his mouth. Kang doesn't let up, demanding that he keep his eyes open and learn to read every strike. When Gilso tries to protest, calling the whole thing insane, Kang only hits harder, declaring that this rooftop will be their training ground for the next few days. The beating continues until Gilso, battered and gasping, realizes this fight isn't a lesson. It's a complete one-sided assault meant to push him past his limits. As night falls, the arena lights up where Kang dominates another opponent with vicious precision. Students watching whisper about how cruel he's become since his fight with Gilso, joking about the headbutt and the puke incident that humiliated him. Their laughter fades when Kang suddenly appears, daring them to fight him instead. They quickly back down while Kang walks off, muttering in frustration. Rejoining his friends, he asks about Gilso's whereabouts. They tell him Gilso hasn't been seen since break, and that he might have already rejected the arena. Remembering Jang's words about Gilso no longer being under the arena's protection, Kang grins to himself, already plotting something. Meanwhile, Gilso is out on the field, drenched in sweat as he runs laps. He pushes his body to its limit, thinking that strength alone isn't enough, he needs speed too. His focus breaks when the roar of motorbikes approaches. A group of delinquents speeds toward him, deliberately ramming into his side. Gilso stumbles as one of them yells about his scratched bike and demands money, claiming he owes millions for the damage. Our boy is stunned as he hears the outrageous amount demanded and tries to explain that he was only the one who accidentally bumped into the bully. Before he can react further, the main thug grabs him by the head and punches him hard to the ground while the others laugh and mock him in the background. The bully continues ranting about how he didn't listen and that he must pay for the damages. Surprisingly, our boy feels no fear at all despite the beating and the threats. He also remembers Jang's brutal training and how much pain he endured. Gathering his courage, he breaks free and throws a punch straight at the bully's face, shouting inside that he won't be afraid anymore. But the bully easily catches his fist, showing no reaction at all. Shocked, Gilso tries to land more blows, swinging wildly with everything he has, yet the other boy dodges each hit like it's nothing. His mind races, realizing that all the training he's had still isn't enough to hurt anyone. The bully grows angrier and lands a brutal kick to Gilso's face, sending him stumbling as blood spills down. The rest of the gang grabs him and mocks him for even trying to fight back. Then their leader straps iron rings to his hands, ready to teach Gilso a painful lesson. Just as he raises his fist, Jin suddenly appears and drives his knee straight into the bully's face, making him reel back in shock. Gilso watches in disbelief as Jin moves fast, taking down one of the attackers with a single punch and knocking out another who charges him with a metal rod. The whole scene turns in an instant, with Jin standing tall while the others fall around him. The gang's girl nearby watches in terror, fearing she might be next, and tries to help her fallen friends. Gilso, observing Jin, notes how unexpectedly strong he is, realizing he isn't just an average guy. Meanwhile, Jin internally calculates how close he came to serious danger from the metal rod. The girl, furious, advances toward Jin and threatens to call her seniors, but the bully leader steps in, stopping her and pointing out that one of their attackers is from 6 gates high. Recognizing the situation, the bullies back off, mount their bikes, and ride away. Watching them leave, Jin mutters to himself about how pathetic they were and asks how he got involved with them, and whether Jang had instructed him. They sit together, discussing the fighting arena and how training alone isn't enough, so Gilso is also working on stamina. Jin teases Gilso about his moves during the fight, acknowledging that while he performed well, he isn't ready to handle multiple opponents yet. He expresses a little envy that Gilso had the chance to train with Jang. Gilso recalls the moment the bully realized he was from 6 gates and left quickly. Jin explains the significance of 6 gates high, noting it's a school famous for producing fighters, and that its gang history goes back to a time when even ordinary students engaged in violence. Gilso listens, realizing that his school carries a reputation that explains why the bullies back down. Jin explains how Jang built the fighting arena at their school and introduced new rules that made everyone follow them, which stopped most of the fights in 6 gates. He warns that if the arena or Jang ever disappears, the school could quickly return to chaos, since there are still troublemakers who want the old violent ways back. With this, the scene shifts inside the fighting arena, where a boy quickly admits defeat, but Kang's friend mocks him and calls over a new student to fight. The new guy hesitates, but Kang's friend insists that the rules of the arena don't allow refusal. Meanwhile, from above, Kang and his gang are amused by the beating of the new students, with Park showing them their place. Back in the ring, Park aggressively attacks the new student, landing a punch and then kicking him, enjoying the chaos while Kang watches. When Kang steps forward, tension rises as the other students speculate about who will fight him. Kang points to a boy and insists he step up, explaining that no reason is needed to fight and that simply being there is enough to challenge him. Kang grabs the guy by the throat, glaring and challenging for rejecting the arena rules like Gilso, but just then Jang arrives, creating a tense atmosphere. Kang tries to explain that he only wants to fight in the arena and that there's been a misunderstanding, but Jang grows visibly angry. The scene shifts to reveal Kang and his friends discussing the backstory. They talk about how Gilso was the first to refuse participating in the arena, and how Jang treats everyone as equals, which leaves a lasting impression on those who enter. Kang notes that many people only like watching fights and never actually participate. So whether the fighting arena exists or not, those who are weak or lazy remain losers. Kang and his friends discuss how most people avoid trouble and hide behind rules, but Gilso exposed a loophole in those rules that irritates them. Kang plots to exploit the rules to force losers to fight and turn the fighting arena into their playground. Coming back to the present, Jang approaches Kang, warning him not to break any rules, and reminding him not to gamble with luck. Kang brushes it off and leaves, smirking. The next day, Jang trains Gilso relentlessly, pushing him to his limits. Gilso is pummeled and feels like he might not survive. But when Jang swings for a punch, he blocks it, realizing he's not as afraid as before. He tries to strike back, but Jang dodges easily, making Gilso understand that he can't win until he learns to stop his opponent first. Gilso starts throwing a flurry of punches, but one slips past Jang, making him annoyed. With this, he hits Gilso hard in the stomach, and he collapses to the ground. Feeling the force was stronger than usual, Jang tells him to stop making weak noises when he attacks and gets close, showing him the 1-2 combo, saying that mastering it can win any fight. Later, they arrive at an arcade club where Jang points out a punching machine and begins teaching Gilso the proper stance. Hands near his face, chin tucked, hips and shoulders aligned. 1 foot back, then jab with the left and transfer all power into the shoulder for a final strike. Jang lands a punch that shakes the machine violently, earning a point, and Gilso tries to copy it. He swings with all his might, but the score barely moves, leaving him stunned at how much harder it is than it looks. Jang points out that Gilso's punch is weak and hits the machine again, showing that it only registers a score when the power crosses a certain threshold. When Jang lands a strong punch, the machine rewards him extra points, and he tells Gilso that he must hit harder than the punches the machine recognizes. He instructs Gilso to find his own form and not reveal it until he earns enough points. Gilso notices that Jang already has a score over 9,999. Meanwhile, in the school hall, a young man is walking, looking at his phone when he bumps into Kang's friends. Instead of helping, they knock his phone from his hand and laugh, pretending it was an accident while hinting that it could lead to a fight in the arena. The guy panics and insists it was his mistake, but the friends mock him and walk off, warning him to watch where he's going. Just then, Jin steps in to support the shaken guy, suggesting they report the incident to the student council, but his friend advises letting it go, saying raising the issue won't help. In the cafeteria, Gilso eats quickly, feeling famished after hitting the punching machine over 100 times without the score moving, realizing how tough it really is. As he focuses on his food, Park suddenly jumps out and deliberately tips his plate onto him. The boy awkwardly pretends it's an accident, then recognizes Gilso and acts overly familiar, slapping him to clean him up before trying the same move again. A flashback shows the boys talking about the earlier incident where they shoved the guy and he apologized. Kang decides they should drag Gilso into the arena to teach him a lesson, while Park insists he can handle it alone and tells Kang to trust him. Back in the present, Park moves to strike Gilso again, but Gilso grabs his hand, stopping him. The guy sneers, teasing that when Gilso gets angry, he actually looks quite cute. Hearing that, Gilso wonders what to do next, remembering Jang's warning that he will remain banned from the arena until his training is complete. Determined, he prepares his punch, knowing he's trained a lot for this moment. Suddenly, a plate flies from behind and hits Park in the face. Jin threw it while scolding him, showing that people shouldn't even disturb others while eating. Gilso is shocked as Jin, in rage, walks toward him, warning him to stay within his limits. Park gets angry and confronts Jin, questioning if he's gone crazy and what he's trying to do. Jin apologizes lightly, insisting this isn't school violence, which only makes Park more furious, and silent curses fill his mind. Jin teases that he actually wants to fight Park properly, and invites him to the fighting arena, promising to teach him well. Outside, Gilso apologizes to Jin for causing trouble while he washes his clothes. However, Jin laughs it off and clarifies that he wasn't upset with Gilso and never intended to fight for him. His goal was to teach Kang and his group a lesson because he couldn't tolerate their aggression in the arena. Hearing this, Gilso's anger spikes as Jin explains that Kang and his gang pick weaker opponents to assault, using resistance as an excuse to escalate. Jin admits he never got a chance to fight them himself, and couldn't just watch the arena get ruined. When Gilso asks why he cares if he's strong enough to not need the arena, Jin reveals that he once went through a dark period similar to Gilso's experience. He recalls being a fat boy and getting bullied by his peers even on the streets. Once they tied him to a pole and humiliated him for his large body. Despite his pleas, he was severely bullied throughout middle school, and at times the thought of death felt like a relief. However, a big guy came to his rescue and saved him from the bullies. As the bully ran away, Jin thanked him, but instead of replying, the guy handed him a flyer about diet boxing and asked if he was interested. Seeing the paper, Jin became curious about boxing and later learned that the man who rescued him was the director of a nearby boxing gym. He tried boxing for the first time and became obsessed, training intensely until he transformed completely. His skill and strength grew, and he eventually beat up the boys who once bullied him, leaving them panicked and apologizing. After his transformation, nobody dared to bully him again, not even those who acted tough before. Jin explains to Gilso that although Jang's rules in the fighting arena are strict, he appreciates that you can fight using your power without fear of sneak attacks, which is why he wants to protect it so much. Determined, he faced Park in the ring for a fight. The crowd watches as Jin and Park stand off, exchanging taunts before the referee calls them to start. Gilso watches silently, wishing Jin luck as the fight is about to begin. The fight kicks off as Park attacks Jin immediately, but Jin dodges every strike with sharp reflexes. Surprised, Park realizes Jin is faster than he expected and continues throwing punches, all of which Jin evades before landing a powerful hit to Park's face, leaving everyone in shock. Blood flows from Park's nose as he struggles to keep up, noting Jin's impressive speed, precise footwork, and boxing technique. Jin follows up with a series of punches while Park's own strikes remain weak. Park tries to counter with a low attack, thinking he can catch Jin off guard, but Jin shifts his fist mid-move and lands a heavy punch on Park's chin, demonstrating control and skill as he smiles at the impact. Jin's punch lands hard, causing blood to pour from Park's mouth as he falls, realizing that Jin baited him on purpose. The crowd erupts with excitement, and Gilso watches, thrilled at how strong Jin really is, noting that Park hasn't landed a single blow. Two boys nearby comment on Jin's power, remarking that Park's winning streak is ending today. Back in the ring, Park keeps attacking, but Jin dodges every strike with ease, which frustrates him as he struggles to connect a single hit. Jin then counters with precision, showing Park that his wide attacks are ineffective, and lands another powerful punch to his face, leaving him reeling. Jin lands a strong punch that knocks Park back, telling him that the fighting arena isn't for those who are weak and that he should stop picking fights. Park looks at Kang standing nearby, and despite being struck, steels himself, smiling as he admits that Jin is better at boxing. The crowd is shocked, and Gilso feels a twinge of nervousness. Park then gets serious, lifts one leg, assumes a proper fighting stance, and challenges Jin to continue. Jin anticipates that Park might go for a kick and moves quickly to counter with one of his own. But Park stops it effortlessly, leaving Jin shocked at his strength. Park then pulls back a punch to create space and immediately moves forward again, preparing another kick. Jin tries to block it with his arm, but the force hits him like a massive moving object, showing just how powerful Park's kick is. Park strikes again, knocking Jin back, and even when Jin tries to block with both hands, the bones in his hands crack from the impact. The boys who were cheering earlier are stunned, and Gilso grows very nervous, shouting Jin's name. Jin steps back to recover while realizing that Park's kicks are on a completely different level from his punches, making him respect the raw power he's facing. Just then, Park moves forward, and Jin knows another kick could be dangerous, but Park switches to punching instead. Jin struggles to block each strike, distracted by the threat of his kicks and finding it hard to react properly. Park lands powerful punches and then suddenly strikes Jin's leg with a heavy kick, sending him to his knees. Jin grabs his leg, realizing he can't get up, and braces as Park aims for his head. At the last moment, the referee blocks Park's kick with his own, declaring that advancing on an unfit opponent is unfair. The referee is revealed to be Hyo Gunung, a third-year student council member whom Jin decides to just call the ref. Park walks away, amused that the fight was stopped early, while giving a creepy smile to Gilso, hinting that the fighting arena will only get more intense in the future. But this time he stares without fear. After the fight, Gilso helps Jin walk, noticing how much pain he must be in. Jin admits that the loss hurts more because it boosted the confidence of the troublemakers in the fighting arena. Gilso points out that he was winning at first, but Jin reflects that Park's kicks were far stronger than he expected, recalling the fear he felt when one came straight toward his head. They reach a safe spot and Jin thanks Gilso for supporting him, suggesting he drink some water before leaving. Gilso insists he has somewhere to go, and Jin is confused as Gilso suddenly runs off in a hurry. The scene shifts to a classroom, where a boy gives a shoebox to Kang as a gesture of appreciation for joining their gang, but it's essentially a bribe for Kang. The leader tells them that he values talent over gestures, and the boys accept the guidance, promising to try their best. Just then, Park arrives and tells Kang that Gilso hasn't come to school. Kang explains that the situation has changed because defeating Jin proved their strength, and anyone weaker is now terrified. Park laughs, but Kang warns that attacking someone like Gilso now would ruin their reputation. A tall boy from their group questions whether they should recruit through the fighting arena, but Kang remarks that it's time to move to the next step, since the first years have already been defeated. They arrive at a gambling spot where the third-year boss, Sun-sik, demands to know why they're there. Kang steps forward, reminding Sun-sik of his legendary brother and pointing out that Jang has sidelined him, which angers Sun-sik. He grabs Kang by the collar, but Kang stands firm, explaining that the situation has changed and that his frustration is why he's challenging him. Sun-sik is left confused as Kang declares that it's time to make a move in the fighting arena. Meanwhile, on the school rooftop, the referee complains to Jang about the first years abusing the rules and how it could shake the foundation of the arena. He notes that Hane's little brother is involved. Jang listens quietly and reflects that even if the rules were broken, the fighting arena must stay intact, questioning whether intervening would really fix anything. Just then, Jang's phone rings, and he notices Gilso calling. The scene shifts to the gaming club where Gilso sits on the floor, having scored a perfect hit on the punching dummy, which is covered in blood. Jang is surprised, and Gilso requests him to teach the next lesson. Earlier, after running away from Jin, Gilso rushed somewhere, recalling Park's intense glare in the fighting arena and telling himself he needed to get stronger fast. He reached the gaming club and began striking the training dummy with all his might, thinking that hard work was his only option and that even weak fists could win if he struck enough times. He remembered Jang's lesson about hitting with full force and finding his own form. Gilso adjusted his stance to put all his power into his punches, finally earning points on the machine. He kept punching relentlessly, his hands bruised and bleeding as the score climbed higher and higher from 134 to 278 to 391, until he reached 4628 and eventually maxed out at 999 points. Back in the present, Gilso faces Jang and asks for the next lesson. Jang, surprised at his rapid progress, agrees, and Gilso explains that he had no choice but to train hard without wasting time. Hearing that, Jang nods and prepares to move on to the next stage of training. Jang instructs Gilso to prepare for the next, very challenging part of his training. Gilso collapses against Jang's chest from exhaustion, and he smiles, noting that rest is also part of training. Next night at the fighting arena, Park looks around, surprised by the small crowd, and mocks the few spectators. Suddenly, Choi Sok, a second-year student council member, appears and steps forward, ready to teach the disrespectful first-year a lesson. Park grows uneasy at the sight of him. Choi points out Park's dragon tattoo and criticizes him for fighting over trivial reasons. The referee watches silently, thinking that the situation can't continue unchecked, ready to enforce justice if needed. Just then, the door suddenly opens and everyone turns. Sun Seok, the third-year student, enters with his followers, ready to stir things up in the fighting arena. The referee immediately grows furious at his presence, but Sun Seok brushes it off, claiming he's still a student and here to fight. Kang steps in behind him, teasing and challenging the referee, while pointing out that new faces make the arena more exciting. The scene shifts to a dark reconstruction site where Gilsoo steps in, uneasy about the eerie atmosphere. Jang's voice comes from behind, and Gilsoo turns to see him standing by the gate. Catching his attention, Jang starts explaining the history of Six Gate High School, how it became the strongest school after dominating the Jungmyeon area, and how the other schools scattered. Gilsoo listens, confused, wondering how this ties into his training. Jang then points out that they are now standing in the territory of Jinsang Technical High School, a group of real punks, leaving Gilsoo shocked. Jang laughs while explaining that even though schools no longer officially fight, entering another school's territory is a provocation. Gilsoo grows alarmed as he suddenly slams the main gate shut and orders him to find the other open gate using his own strength, leaving him shouting in frustration. Suddenly, a motorcycle roars up and a biker appears, questioning who's shouting so loud in their territory. Gilsoo freezes as the biker smirks and recognizes him as a Six Gate High School student. These are the same boys who bullied Gilsoo on his way home. Memories of the past flash back, including the girl who had almost attacked Jin, reminding him that these are the strongest first years from Jinsang Technical High School. This time, though, the girl warns him that things are different. One of the boys steps forward with a grin, slipping on his brass knuckles and mocking Gilsoo, but pauses slightly, surprised by his calm glare. He mockingly wonders if the boy has anything to say before he beats the living crap out of him. However, he doesn't know that Gilsoo is muttering all the basics he learned about boxing and getting ready for an attack. As he gets into his stance, instructing himself, he throws a light upper punch that barely connects, then follows up with a powerful punch that sends the boy flying and crashing to the ground with blood pouring from his nose and mouth. The other three freeze in shock while Gilsoo smiles proudly, realizing his technique is finally working. Back in the ring, Sun Seok dominates Choi, holding him by the throat as he desperately pleads. Sun Seok laughs, enjoying the chaos and mocking the student council's weakness. Before things go out of hand, the referee steps in, warning them not to go too far and to fight opponents at their own level. Seeing the referee, Sun Seok finally releases Choi and surveys the nearly empty arena, noting that many students have stayed away, probably out of fear. Despite this, Sun Seok continues roughing up Choi while laughing, and the referee notices Kang smiling nearby, wondering if this is what Kang planned by bringing in Sun Seok. From the sidelines, Kang challenges Sun Seok to hold a proper scheduled fight instead of causing chaos in the fighting arena, and hints to the referee that he no longer needs to protect the empty arena. The referee struggles to contain his anger as Sun Seok demands a real fight elsewhere, provoking even more frustration. Back at the school grounds, Gilsoo takes control in the territory, breaking a boy's nose with a punch and smiling at his success. Another boy tries to hit Gilsoo but gets sent flying, and a third boy meets the same fate. The group is shocked and panicked, realizing this might be the same formidable kid from before, while more boys arrive yelling to drag the Six Gate High student out. Gilsoo freezes when he sees so many guys and realizes he can't fight them head-on, so he decides to use a tool. He jumps onto a guy's bike, perching on the side as the boys shout and laugh at him struggling to ride it. Then he lets go, letting the bike barrel through the group, forcing them aside while he pushes through and beats up anyone in his way. Someone yells to grab him, but Gilsoo keeps moving, thinking about how much he misses the fighting arena. Spotting a tall building ahead, he heads inside with the other boys following him. As our boy reaches the top of the stairs, he holds his ground and dares the others to come at him as they arrive. One by one they climb up, but Gilsoo lands heavy punches that knock the first two down, slowing the others behind them. On the narrow stairs, he uses the high ground to his advantage, taking them on one at a time while thinking he might escape if he keeps this up. Just as he feels hopeful, a boy from above comes down with a powerful kick that knocks Gilsoo to the floor. Doing that, the attacker complains about being interrupted mid-meal by someone in a six-gate uniform. Gathering himself, Gilso spots a tough guy on the upper floor and rushes to attack, but he takes a hard punch to the face and realizes this guy's strength is on another level. The boy orders the others to beat Gilso within 10 minutes, then leaves, leaving Gilso to face a group of punks suddenly encouraged. One swings a bat while another kicks him, but Gilso blocks and dodges with both arms, thinking this fight won't get him anywhere. The senior starts walking down the stairs, complaining about how useless the first years are. However, to his surprise, Gilso manages to fight his way down, jumps from above, and smashes his head against him, injuring him before tumbling to the floor. The senior shouts at his boys for failing to stop Gilso, threatening them furiously, but Gilso laughs and uses the chaos to escape the building. He spots the rear entrance and heads for it, but the roar of a motorcycle behind him makes him pause. The biker stops in front of him with someone tied to the back, revealing the motorcycle's owner. Smirking, the rider mocks Gilso for defeating his boys and laughs at his appearance, calling him cute. This boy is Hwang Hyukjin, the boss of Jinsang Technical High School. Gilso watches in anger as the boss drags someone behind his motorcycle and thinks this is pure psycho behavior. The rest of the boys who were chasing Gilso finally catch up to them. The boss greets them casually and notes they must have lost to Gilso too based on their appearance. He orders them to wait while he gives them the same love he just delivered to the boy he dragged. One of the seniors protests and insists they can handle Gilso themselves. This angers the boss enough that he releases a powerful aura that moves like a snake while warning them not to touch his prey. The display frightens all the other boys into silence. Meanwhile, Gilso takes this moment to assess his opponent and realizes this must be the boss of Jinsang Technical High School. He notices the boss is shorter than him and less muscular than Jang, which makes him think he might actually be capable of winning this fight. He decides not to waste time and remembers Jang's advice about using 1 and 2 combos against any opponent. With this, he moves forward and attacks with a back fist, but the boss dodges by bending down. Doing that, he laughs at the attempt and calls Gilso cute before grabbing both of his legs. The boss's grip shocks Gilso as he feels the incredible strength behind it. Before he can even react, the guy slams him hard into the ground, making him bleed. Laughing at his own brutality, he tells Gilso not to pass out yet since they're just getting started. Then, without hesitation, he grabs Gilso with both hands and slams him down again, this time with even more force, causing further injuries. As the pain overwhelms him, Gilso begins to fear he might actually die from the beating. Nearby, one of the boys who had been chasing him earlier laughs at the scene, commenting that the hospitality is going well and questioning why Gilso even came here. Back at the fight, the boss lifts Gilso up by the collar, mocking him to struggle more because of how cute he looks. In response, Gilso kicks him hard in the face and calls him a midget, asking why short people keep calling others cute. Then turning the insult back, he calls the boss cute instead. What is this foreplay? This immediately sets the boss off, and he angrily repeats the word back at Gilso. Watching from the side, the senior boy becomes frightened and remarks that Gilso really wants to die. Another boy, confused, asks what the problem is, prompting the senior to explain. He reveals that the boss was bullied for being short when he was younger. Because of this traumatic past, no one is allowed to use the word cute around him under any circumstances. The sudden shift in atmosphere throws Gilso off, as he watches the boss's demeanor change completely. Determined to fight back, he forms a fist and tries to attack, but the boss climbs onto him with both feet, laughing and telling him to enter his hell. Without pause, the boss takes Gilso down to the ground and wraps his legs around him in a hold that prevents Gilso from breathing or moving. The boss laughs and thanks him for being such a cute and tasty meal. The senior, watching nervously, announces that the triangle choke from hell has started. He explains how this technique works like a snake coiling around its prey to suffocate it. He details that anyone caught in this move becomes helpless since they can't use their arms or legs while getting beaten, and can't escape until they lose consciousness. The boss continues to beat the ditty out of Gilso while laughing and asking if he still thinks he's cute. Gilso realizes through the beating that this fight exists on a completely different level compared to his previous encounters, and genuinely feels like he might die. The other boys react in shock as they watch Gilso attempt to lift both himself and the boss off the ground. Even the boss seems surprised at this unexpected display of strength. Despite the effort, Gilso realizes he can't break free from the hold. Amused by his struggle, the boss laughs and calls him cute again, spinning as he declares that Gilso now belongs to him forever. Then, with force, he brings them both back down to the ground. Not letting up, the boss tightens his hold, wrapping his legs around Gilso even more severely while gripping his neck with his hands. He taunts him, mentioning that Jinsang's record is 7 seconds, and wondering how long their cutie can last. As Gilso struggles against the hold, he feels himself on the verge of blacking out. Desperate to stay conscious, he fights to maintain his focus, refusing to lose to someone like this ever again. Gilso's eyes begin to close slowly as his legs stop struggling against the hold. The boss releases him and laughs while calling him cute again. He grabs Gilso's clothes and drags him away while commenting on how fun this is and announcing his intention to play more with him. The senior takes advantage of the situation, sneaking away with the others, since the boss seems to have lost interest in them. He urges everyone to leave quickly, warning them to go while they still have the chance. Meanwhile, the boss drags Gilso toward Jinsang, unaware that Gilso hasn't actually passed out. As his eyes open slightly, memories from his past flood back, and he recalls the fainting game his bullies used to play on him before his transfer. The flashback shows boys surrounding Gilso from all sides, one of them laughing about how his eyes are rolling and how long he lasted. He reflects on how people used to bet on his endurance, finding entertainment in his suffering. To survive, he explains that he relied on using his pinky finger to protect his carotid artery, a weak person's method of survival. Back in the present, Gilso spots a stone and picks it up. The sound catches the boss's attention, making him look back just as Gilso thinks about how this blood represents a miracle born from his past pain. Seizing the moment, he slams the stone hard into the boss's face, knocking him down. The commotion draws cries from everyone around them, shouting in alarm for their seniors. Gilso seizes the opportunity and runs away, glancing back as he thinks he knocked the boss out. Determined, he focuses on reaching the gate to escape. Suddenly, the boss calls after him like a snake chasing prey. The voice startles Gilso, freezing him for a moment. Before he can react, the boss closes in, insisting they should play together, moving dangerously close. Panicking internally, Gilso wonders how the boss can still move after being hit with a stone, but he notices he's almost at the exit. Just then, a commanding voice cuts through the tension, and a lion's aura appears on the scene. It's Jang, arriving like the king of the jungle, before whom every animal seems insignificant. The boss halts immediately, calling out his name. Jang glares at him, identifying him as Hwang Hyukjin from Jinsang Technical High School. He warns that any next attack will be considered an attack against all of Six Gate High School. The boss realizes that one of his feet is already outside the gate, while the other remains inside, meaning he has technically left Jinsang's territory. Hwang speaks, mentioning that something felt off, and referring to their connection to Gilso. He expresses his excitement, wanting to fight Jang Chung as well, and moves forward to attack, declaring that Six Gate's era has ended. Without hesitation, Jang delivers a tremendous punch directly to his mouth, drawing blood. Even Gilso watches in shock at the sheer force. Commenting on the situation, Jang says that the kids from Jinsang Technical High School haven't made any progress and only behave properly after getting hit. Turning to Gilso with a smile, he explains that he's already gone through this stage. He notes that only the last step remains, and instructs him to come to the rooftop starting tomorrow. Gilso smiles in response, feeling a mix of relief and anticipation. The next morning, Gilso walks straight into class brimming with confidence, and calls out his bully to the arena after school, trash-talking that he's dead meat. Deep down, he knows he still hasn't learned the final part of Jang's training. Just a few moments ago, Jin was getting bullied by Park and his gang, even with his broken arm. Ignoring his injury, Park mocked him, slammed him to the ground, and began stomping on it while the other students watched nervously. Meanwhile, Park's gang was loving every second of the chaos. Despite the pain, Jin reminded them that they were breaking the rules, but Park didn't care. Just as he raised his hand to strike again, Gilso appeared and blocked his arm. This is when things escalated, with Park challenging him, telling him to meet at the arena after class to settle things once and for all. Park laughs when he sees Gilso and mockingly calls him their vomit boy while grabbing his hand. As he looks closer, he notices the bandages wrapped around Gilso's arm and teasingly asks if he's been training alone to learn how to guard. Annoyed by the comment, Gilso jerks his hand away and angrily challenges him to a match in the fighting arena. Amused by the sudden outburst, Park wonders where this newfound bravery came from. Grinning, he accepts the challenge as he walks away, promising to show Gilso what the arena is really like these days. Meanwhile, on the rooftop, Jang stands deep in thought when the referee bursts through the door, demanding to know where he was last night. Catching his breath, the referee reveals that Seon Seok came to the fighting arena with Kang and warns that the situation is getting worse. Instead of worrying, Jang smiles at the news, finding it rather interesting. The referee reacts with disbelief, reminding him that the arena is already on the verge of collapse. Unfazed, Jang explains his philosophy, that if the arena collapses over something like this, then it deserves to. He compares it to a polluted river that purifies itself naturally, saying that power suppression or perfect rules were never what made the arena enjoyable. To him, meaningful change only happens organically, not through one person's control. Back in Kang's classroom, Kang asks Park to confirm that Gilso really challenged him to a fight. Park nods, explaining that Gilso suddenly became bold and seems to have been working out, judging by the bandages on his arm. Confidently, he promises to finish Gilso properly in the arena. Kang listens quietly, then responds that getting involved with a loser like Gilso won't benefit them right now since their focus should be on removing Jang. Park, however, dismisses the warning, vowing to cripple one of Gilso's arms so he'll never bother them again. Kang warns that while winning is a given, allowing someone like Gilso to challenge them so easily will make others question their dominance. He reminds Park that all their effort to destroy the fighting arena depends on maintaining flawless victories, urging him never to let his guard down. As he speaks, he recalls how Gilso kept rising like a zombie during his fight with him despite being badly beaten, calling him a persistent bug. Meanwhile, outside, Jin's friend angrily confronts Gilso, demanding to know what he was thinking by challenging Park after seeing how he fights. He points out that even Jin couldn't beat Park and questions how Gilso expects to win. Hearing this, Gilso begins to realize he acted impulsively and starts doubting whether going against Jang's instructions about the final training was the right choice. His mind flashes back to Jang's words, telling him to come to the rooftop for his last training session. Jin tries to stop him, urging Gilso to cancel the fight and explaining that even with Jang's training, fighting is still dangerous for him. He warns that those who left school and now fight in the arena use dirty tactics, insisting the result is already obvious. Concerned for his friend, he offers to handle Park himself once he recovers. But Gilso refuses, reminding Jin that he got injured while protecting him. He reflects on how the morning hallway incident used to be his everyday reality, being ignored and treated like a circus clown for others' entertainment. With quiet determination, he says he doesn't want to become like those people. Instead, he declares that his first opponent should be Park. He wants to finish what started in the cafeteria, and insists he's ready, no matter how dangerous Park might be. As word spreads, students head toward the fighting arena, discussing rumors about Gilso completing special training. They debate whether that alone is enough to beat Park Young-ho, but excitement fills the air as they rush to watch. Before long, the arena is packed with a massive crowd eager to see the fight between Gilso and Park. When Jin and his friend arrive, they're stunned by the turnout, noting it's the biggest gathering since they enrolled. Watching the crowd, Jin admits that Gilso's impact from his last two fights was huge, and explains that the true appeal of the fighting arena lies in how it levels the playing field, where strength matters less than the will to fight. Inside the arena, Park arrives early and immediately starts complaining, furious that Gilso dares to come late. Behind him, one of his boys jokes that Gilso probably got scared and ran away, while the other agrees that it sounds just like him. Hearing this, Park laughs, saying it'd actually be better if Gilso ran since they could finish him off properly outside instead. Meanwhile, Jang appears and quietly takes a spot in the upper area, observing as the crowd grows restless, wondering when the fight will start. Murmurs spread as the spectators realize Gilso still hasn't shown up, and irritation starts to build. Some begin shouting, thinking it might all be a joke. Smirking, Park declares that Gilso has fooled everyone again and won't be showing up, suggesting someone should just tell him to drop out for good this time. Down below, Jin's friend nervously asks if Gilso really ran away, but before anyone can answer, a voice from behind cuts through the noise, asking why he would ever drop out. The entire crowd turns, and shock ripples through them as they see a boy in a hoodie. Their jaws drop when they realize it's Lee Gilso, now sporting a completely new look with short-cut hair. As he steps forward, Gilso opens his hoodie and declares that he never felt coming to school was pointless. Trying to hold it in, Park bursts out laughing at Gilso's haircut. The crowd quickly joins in, mocking his appearance and comparing him to someone joining the army or a total otaku. Up above, Jang watches with a faint smile, not mocking but quietly approving. Unbothered, Gilso takes off his hoodie completely and steps into the ring, warning Park to laugh all he wants, since he won't be able to for long. In response, Park reminds him that Jin was just as confident before getting beaten down. But Gilso fires back, saying they'll see who gets beaten today. At that moment, the referee steps forward and requests them to get ready, as the crowd erupts into thunderous cheers. Standing in the center, Gilso reveals his improved physique as he settles into his fighting stance. In his mind, he reminds himself that the old match is over, and that this time, he'll win, even if it costs him his life. With that, the referee signals the start, and the fight begins. Without hesitation, Gilso rushes forward and throws a punch, but Park swiftly dodges it, remarking that good intentions alone aren't enough. In an instant, he counters with a solid hit to Gilso's nose, drawing blood. Wasting no time, Park launches a barrage of punches, promising to make Gilso regret fighting so fearlessly. Gilso tries to dodge, but several blows still land hard. Mocking him, Park asks if he's been practicing on punching bags at some boxing gym and reminds him that this isn't training. Realizing the gap between them, Gilso notes how incredible Park's speed and power truly are. Smirking, Park taunts him to guess where his next slow punch will land before slamming another tremendous blow into him. From the sidelines, the crowd shouts in frustration, yelling at Gilso to stop standing still and counterattack instead of just taking hits. Up above, Jang and the referee watch closely. The referee comments that everything is going as expected and predicts the crowd will only get louder if this keeps up. But Jang smiles faintly, questioning if that's really what he's seeing, and suggests the referee look closer at who's actually more focused in the fight. Back in the ring, Park laughs, declaring that Gilso was born to be a punching bag. However, his confidence wavers when Gilso suddenly stands up again. Puzzled, he asks why Gilso isn't even defending anymore. Inside his mind, Gilso reminds himself that his fight has only just begun. The scene shifts to a flashback, where Gilso is seen apologizing to Jang before the fight for failing to complete the final training session. He admits that he couldn't stand the situation and signed up for the match out of anger, breaking the rule that fighters must complete all training first. Instead of scolding him, Jang calmly reveals that they'll have to change the plan. Before Gilso can respond, Jang suddenly rushes toward him with a grin, announcing that this crash course will replace the final training. Without warning, he delivers a tremendous punch that sends Gilso flying across the rooftop. Taking a deep breath, Gilso charges forward, forcing Jang to step back, but every punch he throws gets blocked with ease. With calm precision, Jang mocks him that he's too slow and weak, nothing like a proper fighter from 6 gates. Hearing this, Gilso silently admits it's true. He's still inexperienced. Even so, he refuses to give up, telling himself he has to win no matter what. Fueled by determination, he finally lands a punch on Jang's cheek. In response, Jang Chung smirks and reveals to him that if he truly wants to win, he must first drop his defense. Back to the present. Jang and the others watch in shock as Gilso goes all out against Park, throwing rapid punches one after another. From the stands, Jang realizes that Gilso's training with Jang has clearly paid off. However, despite his fierce onslaught, not a single punch connects. Effortlessly, Park dodges every strike and mocks him before countering with a heavy punch to the face. Even after taking the hit, Gilso refuses to back down. Instead, he grabs Park's waist tightly, holding on with all his strength. The crowd, however, remains unimpressed, calling the fight boring and one-sided, claiming Gilso is just getting beaten up again. Park bursts out laughing, mercilessly kneeing Gilso in the face while telling him to stop struggling. But to everyone's surprise, Gilso doesn't let go. Inside his mind, he thinks to himself that everything is going exactly as planned. In his flashback, he recalls the final day of his training with Jang. During that session, Jang had told him that once he drops his guard and learns to read his opponent's movements, that's when the real fight begins. At the time, Gilso had tried to grab Jang's waist the same way he's doing now, only to get beaten down again and again. Each time, Jang reminded him that predicting an opponent's next move is difficult, but it becomes easier once they stop moving. Gilso throws a punch that lands squarely on Jang's face during training. However, Jang barely flinches and calmly explains that holding too tightly only leaves him open to counterattacks. To prove his point, he drives a hard punch into Gilso's stomach, sending him stumbling backward. Gasping for air, Gilso realizes he can't rely only on defense if he wants to win. Before he can recover, Jang closes the distance and aims another punch at his face. This time, Gilso blocks it with his forehead, refusing to step back. Impressed but firm, Jang tells him not to aim for big hits right away. Instead, he advises trapping the opponent and wearing them down until the perfect opening appears. Back to the present. Gilso puts that lesson to use, landing a solid punch to Park's ribs. Caught off guard, Park didn't see it coming and reacts with anger, striking Gilso in the face while cursing. Even then, Gilso doesn't let go. He keeps his grip tight and continues hammering the same spot again and again. With each blow, Park's pain grows, and he begins to realize this tactic is becoming a serious problem. Meanwhile, Jen watches wide-eyed from the crowd as everyone erupts in disbelief. Someone in the stands whispers if this is dirty boxing, but Jen immediately recognizes the move. It's a close-range tactic designed to land repeated punches from inside the guard. Frustrated and furious, Park finally breaks free and takes a step back, still shouting at Gilso. Breathing heavily, Gilso steadies himself and notices that Park's guard has dropped. Seeing his chance, he tightens his stance and rushes forward with a punch aimed straight at Park's face. But Park reacts fast, dodging it easily and laughing as he mocks Gilso's predictable move. Body first, then head. Watching from above, Jang narrows his eyes. He remembers instructing Gilso that training alone can only take him so far. In his words, once inside the ring, all training should be forgotten, because real fights are unpredictable and full of surprises. He had told him not to overthink his technique, but to stay calm, trust his instincts, and wait for the right opening. Back in the present, that opening finally appears. In one swift motion, Gilso grabs Park's head and unleashes a furious punch. Before Park can react, he realizes in shock that the earlier strike was only a feint. With his eyes locked in, Gilso winds up one final hit, and with perfect timing, delivers a massive blow that sends Park flying backward. Gilso lands a massive punch squarely on Park, shouting that this was unexpected too. The entire arena freezes as Park crashes to the ground, leaving the crowd gaping in disbelief. For a moment, silence fills the air, then it erupts. Excitement surges through the spectators as Gilso pumps himself up, declaring that this is only the beginning. In an instant, the kids start chanting his name, calling him the vomit transfer student, while cheering louder than ever. Meanwhile, Park pushes himself up, fuming and trying to regain composure. He convinces himself that the hit was nothing more than a lucky wild swing. Determined to prove it, he charges forward to strike again. But before he can react, Gilso counts out loud and lands 2 sharp punches straight to Park's face. As Park staggers, Gilso adds 2 more hits in quick succession, slamming him back and leaving the crowd roaring in amazement. From the upper deck, the referee watches with a grin, impressed by Gilso's precision and control. Beside him, Jang laughs softly and explains that at this level, stamina and mental strength make all the difference. He points out that sudden, unpredictable attacks like Gilso's can completely shatter an opponent's focus, and now the momentum has clearly shifted in Gilso's favor. Down in the ring, Park collapses again, blood dripping from his nose. Jang watches nervously from the crowd, sensing that something about Park's reaction feels off. Slowly, Park drags himself upright and lifts his gaze toward the upper stands. There, Kang and his 2 friends stare down coldly with their expressions heavy with expectation. In that moment, Park remembers warning him that they worked hard to bring the fighting arena to their school, and that he has to keep winning no matter what. Humiliated and angry, Park curses under his breath, realizing how bad this looks. Determined to turn things around, he steadies his breathing and shifts into the same stance he once used to defeat Jen. He glares at Gilso and declares that he's done playing around. It's time for the kick stance. Recognizing the danger, Gilso tells himself he can't afford to hesitate. He charges forward, hoping to end the fight before Park gains control. But in a sudden blur of motion, Park swings his leg and lands a brutal kick across Gilso's face, sending him flying through the air. Dazed and reeling, Gilso wonders what kind of kick that even was. Before he can hit the ground, Park closes the distance and drives another kick deep into his stomach. Without stopping, he continues hammering Gilso with a barrage of relentless kicks, shouting furiously that a loser like him should know his place and stay down where he belongs, like the trash he is. Park unleashes his fury on Gilso with a series of brutal kicks, each one landing with crushing force. Under the relentless assault, Gilso struggles to stay upright, feeling every blow slam into him like a cannonball. He can barely breathe, let alone counter. In that painful moment, his mind flashes back to his conversation with Jin, who had warned him that Park's legs weren't normal, that he'd done something to make his kicks far stronger than before. Snapping back to the present, Gilso clutches his side and finally understands why Jin was so worried. Every strike feels less like a kick and more like being hit by an iron rod. Meanwhile, Park smirks at his struggling opponent and mocks him, saying that frightened look suits him perfectly. Without hesitation, he drives another vicious kick into Gilso's face, sending him crashing to the ground. Standing over him, Park looks thrilled, almost proud of the pain he's causing. That cruel grin triggers something deep inside Gilso. Memories flood back of the people who tormented him before, of the laughter and mockery that came with every bruise. He realizes Park is no different from those monsters who once enjoyed watching him suffer. Fueled by that thought, Gilso refuses to stay down any longer. Summoning all his strength, he pushes himself back up just as Park winds up for another kick. This time, the kick lands squarely on Gilso's butt and then stops dead. Park freezes, staring in disbelief as Gilso holds firm, blocking the blow by thrusting his hip forward. From the crowd, Jin and his friend gape in shock, whispering if he really just used his butt to block that. Meanwhile, Gilso stays calm, thinking to himself that he knows exactly where it hurts less. After all, years of bullying taught him which parts of the body could take a beating. However, Park bursts out laughing, thinking this has to be some kind of joke. He mocks Gilso again, saying this ridiculous trick can't possibly save him. But when he kicks once more, Gilso blocks it the same way, then again and again. No matter how hard Park attacks, Gilso keeps using his hips to deflect the blows, standing firm each time. The crowd can't hold it in anymore. They burst into laughter, cheering and joking about Gilso's bizarre new move. Some shout that new fighters always come up with creative techniques, while others laugh and ask what kind of defense this even is. Even Jin joins in, chuckling at the absurdity, but deep down he recognizes the truth. He explains quietly that Gilso is actually being smart. Despite how funny it looks, the butt is one of the most cushioned parts of the body, and right now it might just be the best defense Gilso has. Back in the ring, Park grows frustrated and mocks Gilso, telling him to try defending with his head instead. With that, he aims a powerful kick at Gilso's head, but Gilso dodges it effortlessly, noticing that the strike was slow enough to see coming clearly. From the sidelines, Jin observes Park slowing down and recalls something strange from their own fight. He remembers that while Park's kicks were incredibly strong, he seemed oddly reluctant to use them, as if he didn't want to kick at all. Jin deduces that the more powerful the kick, the greater the risk involved. Meanwhile, Gilso closes the distance, focusing on Park's face when he notices something unusual on Park's pants. Before Gilso can process it, Park suddenly punches him hard in the face, sending him flying backward. Laughing, Park taunts that Gilso didn't see that coming. He complains about how much trouble Gilso keeps causing, but insists it will all end now. Raising his leg, he prepares to finish Gilso with another kick. Just in time, Gilso calls out Park's name. Startled, Park freezes mid-kick as Gilso seizes his leg, laughing and declaring that his kicks have become far too slow. With a sharp pull, Gilso yanks Park off balance and slams him hard to the ground. Cursing, Park struggles to recover as he lands. Holding onto the leg, Gilso pieces things together in his mind. He realizes that the impact from each kick feels like being hit with an iron rod, and the harder Park kicks, the slower his movement becomes. During those slow strikes, Gilso had noticed a strange glint inside Park's pants, right along his leg. Acting quickly, Gilso grabs at Park's pants. Internally panicking, Park desperately hopes Gilso will stop. But before he can react, Gilso tears the fabric and shouts angrily that he's caught him. As he tears his pants, it reveals a metal band strapped at Park's leg. The crowd erupts in shock the moment they see an iron band strapped to Park's leg. Realization hits Gilso immediately. This explains why he kept losing strength so quickly against those brutal kicks. In an instant, the arena fills with chaos as students explode with rage, shouting at Park and calling him a dirty cheater. Their voices rise together, demanding he get out of the ring and hurling insults with every word. Up above, the referee hesitates and asks if the match should be stopped, But Jang simply smiles and suggests he wait, sensing the fight is already nearing its end. Without wasting another second, Gilso, pinning Park down, unleashes a relentless barrage of punches. Each strike lands harder than the last, driving Park backward as disbelief flashes across his bruised face. Despite his cheating, Park can't understand how Gilso still has this much strength left. Blow after blow, his face swells under the punishment, and Gilso's anger burns hotter with every hit. In that moment, he recognizes the same fear in Park's eyes that once lived in his own, the helpless terror of being completely overpowered. But now that version of him no longer exists. With a final burst of fury, Gilso drives his punch into Park's body, sending him sprawling to the ground. Seeing enough, the referee rushes in and waves his arm to stop the match, loudly declaring Gilso the winner. The arena erupts once more, this time in thunderous cheers as the crowd chants Gilso's name with wild excitement. Meanwhile, Park lies unconscious on the floor, refusing to accept what just happened. Barely lifting his head, he spots Kang and his two friends walking away. Desperation fills him as he mentally pleads for them to wait, insisting this isn't over. But when Kang glances back, his expression is cold and filled with contempt. Around him, the furious crowd begins pelting stones and cans, shouting that even with cheating, he's still lost pathetically. Their anger builds, promising they'll deal with him again tomorrow. Cowering under the barrage, Park shields himself and wonders in disbelief how everything fell apart so fast. Amid the chaos, Gilso steps forward and extends a hand toward him. His voice is calm but firm as he tells Park to pull himself together, because even with armor, he's still lost. He admits he wanted a fair fight, but rules are rules, and suggests they settle things properly next time. The referee can't help but laugh, commenting that this new student is more interesting than expected, especially since he's actually offering a handshake after a fight like that. Smiling from above, Jang agrees, remarking that Gilso has finally become a true Six-Gate high school student, and perhaps even more unpredictable than anyone imagined. A sudden laugh cuts through the noise as a boy steps forward, mocking that Six-Gate school must have fallen low if people are watching such pathetic matches. The crowd immediately turns, surprised by his boldness. Without hesitation, he grabs Park by the hair and taunts him for losing to a small kid while pretending to be the top dog. The guy is Sun-Sok and his tone drips with scorn as he asks how Park plans to face the seniors after graduation. From the sidelines, Gilso also watches in shock, unable to believe who this really is. Then from behind, Jang's voice rings out, asking what Sun-Sok wants. With a smirk, Sun-Sok replies that it's been a long time and calls Jang a traitor. His tone grows colder as he declares he can no longer tolerate this filthy arena. In one sweeping statement, he announces that starting now, he'll crush the Six Gates. In response, Jang smiles calmly and remarks that he thought Sun had rotted away somewhere. Yet here he is, showing off in front of everyone. His expression shifts and an intimidating lion-like aura begins to radiate from him. With confidence burning in his eyes, he warns Sun that he'll show him what a real arena looks like. The tension thickens as the two stand face to face, Jang on one side, Sun on the other, while the crowd buzzes with excitement, thrilled at the chance to witness this legendary showdown before graduation. Meanwhile, Gilso looks confused and turns to Jin for answers. Jin explains quietly that before the arena was ever established, Sun used to compete with Jang for the title of the strongest at Six Gate. Hearing this, Gilso reacts in disbelief, unable to imagine anyone standing on Jang's level. Back in the ring, Sun stomps the ground hard, cracking the floor beneath him. He stretches his arms, saying it's been too long since their last rematch. Jang responds casually, admitting that just refreshing those old memories already makes him nervous. The air grows heavy as Sun-Sik calls him cheeky, and suddenly bursts forward with terrifying speed. The ground trembles from the impact, scattering everyone nearby. The crowd gasps, shouting about his monstrous strength and worrying that the entire arena might collapse under the force. Just then, Jang sidesteps the attack with effortless precision, his movements calm and calculated. Without missing a beat, he tells Sun this is exactly what he was aiming for. A confident smile spreads across Sun's face hearing that, and he launches a lightning-fast punch. Jang reacts instantly, dodging all the blows, moving like water, slipping past every attack with ease. From the sidelines, Gilso watches in disbelief, his eyes wide with awe. He turns to Jin, asking how Sun's body can move with such agility. Jin observes carefully, noting that Jang's defense is still flawless. He's dodging every kick perfectly. Even so, Gilso's worry grows as he wonders what will happen if Jang actually loses. In a low tone, Jin explains that if that happens, the arena will collapse, and Six Gate will return to its old chaotic state. He adds that Sun is the reincarnation of Hanhei, a name that leaves Gilso confused, unaware that Hanhei is Kang's older brother. Back in the ring, suddenly, Sun's aura surges outward, twisting into the shape of a massive bear. The ground trembles as he declares that Jang is nothing but a coward who runs away. With pride burning in his voice, he claims that while Jang may have won before, he's completely different now. Before anyone can react, Sun dashes forward at terrifying speed and attacks again. Jang ducks low, narrowly avoiding the strike, but a thin cut opens on his cheek, and blood begins to trickle down. Seeing the hit land, Sun laughs triumphantly and immediately presses his assault. Forced onto the defensive, Jang blocks and retreats while Sun mocks him, saying the so-called top dog is nothing special after all. With a roar, he throws a powerful punch that drives Jang backward across the arena. Watching the fight unfold, Gilso clenches his fists and wonders how Jang can possibly defeat this monster. Jang's expression hardens as he admits that Sun has gotten stronger, so strong that even though Jang's skills are superior, he's being completely overpowered. He speculates that Sun must have undergone some kind of secret training. Moments later, Jang stumbles under the relentless blows and crashes to the floor. Seeing this, Sun bursts out laughing and slowly walks toward him with confidence radiating from every step. With cold satisfaction, Sun raises his leg high and declares that Jang has lost miserably before commanding the traitor to die. Jang glares up at him, rage flashing in his eyes. As Sun swings his leg down, the crowd gasps, convinced that it's over. But in the very next instant, Jang moves and his fist connects cleanly with Sun's face in a devastating punch. The impact echoes through the arena as he asks, almost mockingly, how Sun is any different from before. The force sends Sun flying, crashing hard against the ring ropes. Before the crowd can even process it, Jang is already standing in front of him again, his movements blindingly fast. He remarks coldly that this has become a waste of time and needs to end now. Without hesitation, he unleashes a storm of punches, each one heavier than the last. Sun-sik reels from the blows, his mind reeling in shock as he realizes just how monstrous Jang's strength truly is. Finally, Jang draws back his fist and drives it deep into Sun's stomach, the sheer power of the hit shaking the entire arena. Jang declares that this has gone on long enough and it's time to end it. Without hesitation, he drives a devastating punch straight into Sun-sok's stomach. The impact thunders through the arena, sending Sun flying across the floor as the crowd gasps in disbelief. Watching the scene unfold, Gilso can hardly believe his eyes. He feels a mix of awe and admiration, realizing just how powerful Jang truly is. For the first time, he understands what a real battle between the strongest fighters of Six Gate High School looks like. As the dust settles, Jang turns his head and spots Park trying to slip away from the chaos. With a sharp tone, he calls out, demanding to know where Park thinks he's going. He starts walking toward him, his presence alone radiating authority. Jang reminds him that anyone who breaks the rules must face punishment. The moment Park hears his voice, his entire body freezes. Slowly turning around, he meets Jang's piercing gaze and trembles in terror. Jang's expression hardens as he orders Park to come lie down so he can demonstrate what happens to rule breakers. Moments later, the scene shifts to Park kneeling on the arena floor. Towering above him, Jang holds a thick iron rod in his hand. Panic floods through Park's mind as he imagines the blow landing. He knows if a monster like Jang swings that thing, he won't survive. Breaking down in desperation, Park begs for forgiveness and insists this isn't what it looks like. But Jang doesn't respond, his cold eyes fixed on him as he repeats his order for Park to lie down. In a moment of blind panic, Park grabs onto Jang's leg and starts crying, claiming he was forced into everything and is just a victim. The crowd murmurs in surprise, watching the humiliating scene unfold. Through tears, Park promises again and again that he'll never act like this in the future, and pleads to be spared just this once. Jang finally lowers himself to Park's level, sitting in front of him with visible anger. In a firm, icy tone, he repeats his command to lie down. Terrified, Park obeys and lowers himself to the ground, trembling as tears stream down his face. He knows this is the end, and feels his heart pounding in his chest. Raising the iron rod high, Jang warns him to clench his teeth if he doesn't want to pass out. Park sobs and obeys while his entire body shakes as he braces for the strike. Then, in one swift motion, Jang swings the stick down with terrifying force. Park shuts his eyes, drenched in sweat and trembling uncontrollably. In sheer terror, he even loses control and wets himself. But just before the rod makes contact, Jang stops it an inch away from his butt. A beat of silence follows before the crowd erupts into laughter. Everyone bursts out laughing, pointing and shouting as they realize what just happened. Some mock Park for peeing himself, while others cheer and call it a legendary moment in arena history. Meanwhile, Jang just looks down at Park and tells him he has no shame left in the arena. With a stern tone, he adds that he'll let him go this time, but warns it won't happen again. Among the crowd, Kang watches quietly with his unreadable expression. Then with a heavy stomp, he declares that everyone has now witnessed what a real arena looks like. A place where fighters rely on strength and spirit, not tricks or cheating. Only fair battles, he says, decide who's truly strong. His gaze sharpens as he warns that anyone who dares to bring arena fights into school or break its rules will face consequences. No one will be spared, not while he remains leader. He turns his eyes toward Kang and his friends, making it clear who the warning is for. Finally, Jang raises his voice and proclaims that the arena is a sacred place where true warriors are tested and where every fighter deserves respect. The moment he finishes, the entire crowd erupts into cheers, shouting his name with renewed admiration. The next day on the quiet rooftop, Jang trains again. Each punch he throws at the heavy bag lands with explosive force, echoing through the air. When Gilso arrives, he pauses for a moment, amazed that Jang is already back to training after such an intense fight. Without turning around, Jang questions why he's here, saying he has nothing more to teach. If Gilso came for more lessons, he should leave. Gilso quickly explains that he didn't come to train, he came to thank him. Still punching, Jang assures there's no need for thanks. He simply did what had to be done. Gilso nods quietly, but he can't help thinking that Jang feels distant today, his usual warmth replaced with cold determination. After a moment's hesitation, he gathers his courage and admits there's something he's curious about. That finally makes Jang stop and turn around looking straight at him. Stepping closer, Jang reveals to Gilso that there's actually someone he wants to show him. He explains that since Gilso followed him better than expected, there's much he wants to say. With a rare hint of pride, he acknowledges how hard Gilso has worked. Overwhelmed, Gilso bows deeply, thanking him from the heart. He doesn't fully understand what Jang means, but something about his aura feels different, calmer yet heavier, as if he's carrying a secret. The scene then shifts to the arena, where the crowd roars as another fight unfolds. Since Jang's speech, the arena has returned to normal, but now the atmosphere is fiercer than ever. Every day, pure, intense battles fill the air, each one driven by pride and power. The referee steps forward and calls for the next match. Gilso enters the arena, with his expression full of quiet confidence. The crowd immediately begins chanting his name. A faint smile crosses his face, one that's different from before. Through countless fair fights, he has changed. His fists have grown stronger. His instincts are now sharper. He can now read the rhythm of combat and strike precisely when an opening appears. As the match begins, Gilso charges forward with his swift and fluid movement. He lands a clean hit to his opponent's face, then follows with a crushing blow that ends the fight in seconds. The crowd explodes into cheers as Gilso lets out a fierce scream, feeling the rush of victory surge through him. The arena has become his world, a place that fuels his passion and strength. Meanwhile, far away, inside a dimly lit juvenile facility, Kang walks down a narrow corridor and stops in front of a cell. From the shadows, a familiar voice greets him, saying it's been many days since their last meeting. Kang lowers his head respectfully and greets the man as his brother Hanhei, now imprisoned in juvenile rehabilitation. With a calm but dangerous smile, Hanhei says he expected to hear some interesting news. He asks how things are going. Kang answers quietly, admitting that everything has gone wrong as a loser appeared and ruined their plans. Worse, Sun Sok failed to defeat Jang. Hearing this, Hanhei suddenly bursts into laughter so loud it echoes through the hall, ignoring the quiet notice nearby. He mocks Jang for acting like he's become a big shot, saying it's only because the real master is gone. Leaning closer, he declares that just because Jang calls himself the leader, doesn't mean he truly is. In that moment, it becomes clear that Hanhei, the man behind bars, is none other than the former leader of Six Gate High School and the true power that once ruled over them all. Kang assures his brother not to worry, explaining that he already has a plan in mind. He adds that if the school approach fails, they'll simply try another method. Hearing this, Hanhei responds with a cold lesson, saying that only those who've worn a leash themselves can put one on others. His words carry a warning for Kang to stay in line and not make any mistakes. The sharp tone leaves Kang visibly shaken. As Hanhei rises from his chair, he mentions that their father will help him get out in a few months, which brings visible relief to Kang. However, before leaving, Hanhei turns back with anger flashing in his eyes and orders Kang not to ruin the family's name. He promises that everything will be taken care of once he's released. Kang nods and agrees, clenching his fist tightly, though it's unclear whether he feels anger, guilt, or determination. The scene then shifts to Jang, who sits in a chair grinning with excitement because he's finally been asked out on a date. On his phone, a message from his girlfriend GD invites him and his friends to hang out with her group in a 3-on-3 setup over the weekend. Feeling thrilled, Jang rushes to ask Gilso and Jin for help. At first, Gilso hesitates, admitting he's never done anything like that before, while Jin mentions he has gym training that weekend. Even so, Jang insists this time is different since GD asked him first. Jin rolls his eyes and reminds him how many times he's misread signals before. Jang argues that being invited out on the weekend is proof enough that it's real. Seeing how desperate he looks, Gilso suggests they help him out anyway, though Jin jokes that he has a talent for being wrong. Frustrated, Jang offers to buy them hamburgers if they come, and when Jin adds dessert to the deal, they finally agree. Later at the cafe, Jang can barely sit still, fidgeting with his drink as Jin teases him about how many cups he's already had. Gilso quietly observes him and wonders who this girl really is to make him so nervous. As he looks outside, he spots a beautiful brown-haired girl approaching and instantly feels drawn to her, guessing she might be GDA. When Jang waves toward the group, Gilso realizes his friend has surprisingly high standards. A moment later, a red-haired girl, actually GDA, walks in with the brown-haired girl and another friend. The girls apologize for being late, explaining that the bus was delayed. Jang quickly tells them it's fine and introduces his friends. GDA greets them cheerfully and suggests they all have fun together. As they sit down, Gilso debates whether he should have come, since GDA is clearly Jang's crush. But that thought fades fast when the brown-haired girl introduces herself as Jang Mi and sits across from him. In that instant, Gilso feels genuinely happy he decided to come. They order coffee and the mood lightens as GDA asks about their school life. Jang tries to sound modest, saying he's just a normal student, but Jin immediately calls him out for never paying attention in class and spending all his time watching idol fan cams. Jang nearly spills his drink while trying to defend himself, but Jin keeps going, adding that he just sleeps through most classes. GDA looks surprised, mentioning that he studies hard at the academy, which makes everyone burst out laughing. Meanwhile, Gilso sits quietly, feeling out of place as everyone else chats and laughs around him. The noise makes him even more hesitant to join in, and he wonders if he should have stayed home. Noticing his silence, Mi turns to him and gently asks if he doesn't like talking. Her question catches him off guard, and he quickly denies it, feeling a mix of surprise and excitement that she approached him first. As they start talking, Mi admits that she also dislikes loud crowds and feels more comfortable in quieter settings. Hearing this makes Gilso relax, realizing they actually have something in common. The two begin to connect over being listeners rather than the ones who lead conversations. Curious, Mi asks about his MBTI and suggests they might share the same type, which makes Gilso smile for the first time that day. Just as their conversation starts to flow naturally, Jin cuts in and suggests they all head to a nearby coin karaoke place. Once they arrive at the karaoke spot, Jin-hee playfully asks Jin how good he is at singing. Jin shrugs and says he's average, which makes Jin-hee laugh, teasing that people who say that are usually great singers. Amused, Jin invites her to see for herself, and Jin-hee eagerly agrees. Before Jin can enter the karaoke room, Jing stops him with a hand on his shoulder and awkwardly tells Jin-hee they need to use the washroom. Jin looks confused, saying he already went, and tries to go inside, but Jing blocks him again. Tension rises as he demands to know what Jin's problem is today, shocking both Jin and Gilso. Unable to hold back, he accuses Jin of having deep conversations with Jin-hee instead of helping him win her attention. Jin shouts back, arguing that he was just trying to help him with his talks. The heated exchange pushes Jing over the edge, and he challenges Jin to settle things in the arena. As their voices grow louder, Gilso feels trapped and embarrassed while people around them start staring. Wanting no part in the argument, he awkwardly excuses himself, saying they probably need to talk things out, and slips away. While leaving, he can still hear them bickering over who understands girls better, which makes him sigh in disbelief. Alone in the hallway, Gilso reflects on how those two always end up fighting but can't help admiring Ging's confidence compared to his own shy awkwardness. His thoughts drift to Midi again, how stunning she looked, how calmly she spoke, and how even her name sounds beautiful. Smiling to himself, he heads back toward the karaoke rooms, wondering if he'll get a chance to talk to her again. As he approaches, he hears a tense voice asking what the problem is. Looking inside, he spots Midi facing a boy who seems to be bothering her. The boy pressures her to join him and his friends in the next room for a so-called 3-on-3 setup. Midi firmly says she already has a group, but the boy laughs it off as a lie and grabs her hand. When Gilso steps in, the boy scoffs and mocks him as a loser, proudly announcing he's from the Boxon group, where great people gather. Despite hearing that, Midi tries to pull her hand free while the boy taunts her, asking what she'll do if he doesn't let go. Seeing this, Gilso clenches his fists and steps forward, ready to intervene. But before he can move, Midi surprises him by taking a fighting stance. In one swift motion, she grabs the boy's shirt, shoves him forward, and warns that if talking doesn't work, she'll make sure he regrets it. Midi slams the boy to the ground with a sharp, powerful move, hitting him hard enough to make his nose bleed. The impact leaves Gilso completely stunned, unable to believe what he just witnessed. Nearby, Ji-hye holds her head in frustration, and admits she was worried ever since the boy grabbed Mi's hand. Confused, Gilso asks what's going on, but Ji-hye calmly tells him not to worry, explaining that Mi may look gentle but is actually terrifying when angered. Before Gilso can process that, the boy staggers back to his feet, cursing under his breath as he charges at Mi again. She doesn't even flinch. With quick, precise movements, she dodges every strike and counters with several clean punches to his face. Watching in disbelief, Gilso turns to Ji-hye, who casually explains that Mi has trained in self-defense since she was a kid. Her brother taught her everything, and over the years she's become so skilled that most guys can't even come close to matching her. The fight ends with a single, powerful kick from Mi that sends the boy crashing backward. As he hits the ground, Ji-hye continues the conversation as if nothing unusual happened, mentioning that Mi's brother goes to 6th Gate High School, and coincidentally has a one-letter name like hers. Gilso freezes for a moment, shocked by the detail. His mind races as he tries to think of anyone from 6th Gate High with a one-letter Jang family name, and only one name surfaced, Jang Chung. Before he can ask, Ji-hye confirms it with a nod, saying it's exactly who she meant. At that moment, Mi steps forward and presses her foot on the defeated boy's head, telling him he should have let go when she gave him the chance. A loud voice suddenly shouts from behind, mocking the guy for getting beaten instead of bringing girls. Minna looks up sharply and spots two more boys stepping out from the nearby room. Her expression hardens as she warns them that they're done for today and should back off. Ignoring her warning, one of the boys charges forward, yelling and demanding to know who she thinks she is. Before he can even reach her, a strong punch lands squarely on his face, sending him sliding several feet across the ground. The punch comes from Gilso, who grabs the boy by his shirt and angrily asks how they dare to gang up on a girl. Watching from the side, Jia looks impressed and remarks that Gilso is something else, noting that people from Six Gates are on another level. Min nods in agreement while Gilso turns to her asking if she's hurt. She smiles and thanks him, assuring him she's fine, then asks if he's okay after stepping in. Gilso laughs it off, saying it's nothing compared to Six Gates training, which makes Min chuckle as she admits they would have been in real trouble without him. A moment later, Gyung and Jin rush to the scene, looking confused as they see everyone gathered outside. Gyung asks what's going on, but before anyone can answer, Ji yells at them for showing up so late and points toward where the thugs had been. When they turn to look, the boys are already gone. The group stands puzzled, realizing their attackers have fled. Meanwhile, a short distance away, the same three thugs are shown walking down a dimly lit street, muttering angrily about Six Gates. The tattooed one mentions that Youngnim will definitely be interested in what happened and swears revenge on Mi. Later, as the tension fades, Gilso and Mi walk side by side, chatting quietly while the others walk ahead. Behind them, Mi turns to Gilso and asks when he started fighting. He avoids the question and instead praises her skills, saying she handled herself really well. Deep down, he thinks about how his own training has helped him survive situations like this, and notes that Mi doesn't resemble Jang at all, despite being his sister. As they talk, Gilso mentions that her brother trained her and adds that he's grateful because Jang also helped him a lot after he transferred to the school. Mi stops for a moment, surprised, and realizes that Gilso must be the first-grade transfer student her brother once mentioned. Gilso, curious, asks if Jang actually talked about him. His mind drifts back to something Jang said in the past, how he wanted to show someone something. Gilso wonders if Mi was who he meant, though another thought crosses his mind that makes him embarrassed, realizing that she might get to know all of his loser image by her brother. Just then, she surprises him by holding out her phone. She says her brother once mentioned finding someone interesting, and that she realized it was him. Smiling, she suggests they stay in touch. Relieved and happy, Gilso gladly exchanges numbers with her, thinking to himself how thankful he is that he decided to come along today. Meanwhile, at a dark construction site, a group of gangster boys surround a victim whose mouth is wrapped in plastic. The muffled boy thrashes helplessly, struggling to breathe, until the boss finally rips the plastic off his face. Gasping for air, the boy begs for mercy and promises to return the money soon. The boss smirks and tells him there might be another way to make up for it, by becoming a player. Desperate and terrified, the boy immediately agrees while coughing and clutching his throat, marking the beginning of something much darker. With this, the boss turns toward his men, revealing that they're the same three who fought against Min and Gilso earlier. The tattooed one steps forward and respectfully addresses him as Hyungnim, reporting that someone dared to lay hands on members of the Boxon group. Before he can finish speaking, the boss suddenly grabs his lips and yanks hard enough to draw blood. He demands to know if the boy seriously let himself get beaten by a girl. The boy tries to explain, stammering in fear, but his words only make things worse. The boss kicks him repeatedly, furious that he's brought shame to the Boxon name. Another boy quickly steps in and clarifies that it wasn't just anyone. They fought students from Six Gates. The mention of Six Gates immediately catches the boss's attention, and his anger shifts into interest as he listens more carefully. Right away, his follower warns that messing with the Boxon group is a huge mistake, and that she's basically done for today. At that moment, Jang Mi recognizes the boy as the same troublemaker from the karaoke incident earlier. Before she can react, Han steps forward with a wooden stick, swinging at her and promising to make the taser even more electrifying. Her body protests, but Mi manages to dodge. Han laughs, impressed that she can still move. Meanwhile, the girl with the taser comments on how impressive it is that Mi is still functioning after a shock, saying that playing with a pretty toy is always more fun. Without hesitation, she shocks Mi again, knocking her unconscious. She sits beside Mi's limp body, joking about teaching her a lesson if Han gives the okay. Han refuses, considering Mi too useful to become the girl's plaything. He orders his boys to tie her up and take her to their hideout. Just then, Gelsu shows up. The tattooed boy tries to say something, but Gelsu's punch sends him flying. Han freezes, stunned, while Gelsu's gaze lands on Mi's phone lying on the ground. At that moment, Han can't help wishing he had been faster, thinking maybe he could have stopped all of this. A flashback kicks in. About 30 minutes earlier, Gelsu was on his way home after training. He sent Jang Mi a message wondering what she was up to, and whether it was too late for her to respond. Before long, she replied, mentioning that she had just wrapped up her part-time shift and asking how his training had gone. Gelsu noticed she'd worked late, and almost immediately after, another notification from Mi appeared. She mentioned she was walking past the karaoke place from before, and noted that the street was completely empty since it wasn't the weekend. She even added that she was thinking of stepping inside for a quick song. Gelsu flushes at Mi's message and briefly considers inviting her to hang out. But then he notices something off as when she inquired about his plans. The letter N had been held far too long at the end. Suddenly, a flashback reveals the moment the girl shocked Mi while she was mid-message. Mi struggles on the ground, demanding to know who they are and whether they're connected to those people, while the girl casually remarks that tormenting a pretty girl is exactly her kind of fun. Back in the present, Gelsu realizes that the strange message is what led him here. Right as Mi was being attacked, right away the three thugs recognize him. One of the femboys remarks that he's from 6th Gate. Executive Han adds that they were planning to invite him sooner or later anyway, as apparently the 6th Gate kids have been getting a bit too restless lately. Gelsu fires back, warning that he'll kill every one of them for putting their hands on the wrong person. A beat later, a Big Mac guy charges in, shouting that Gelsu's dead today. Gelsu sidesteps the punch with ease and floors him with a single clean hit. Almost immediately, two others rush him, one throwing a punch while the other aims a kick. Gelsu leans out of the punch and blocks the kick, then drives a solid blow right into the second guy's gut. The third attacker swings his leg again, but Gelsu slips past it and clips him across the chin with an uppercut. At this point, he's already thinking these guys are even weaker than the 6th Gate kids. He can handle as many as they throw at him. Right after that, another boy jumps in, only to get booted back by Gelsu. A split second later, a wooden stick cuts toward his head as he ducks just in time. Executive Han stands there gripping the stick, commenting that he's been curious about the 6th Gate kids and wants to size up Gelsu for himself. Saying that, he launches a flurry of strikes, but Gelsu weaves through every one of them without breaking a sweat. Han compliments Gelsu's speed and without hesitation targets his leg. In response, Gelsu leaps over the strike, mocking Han for judging others without real skills, and then fires a powerful attack aimed at Han's face. Han blocks with his stick, but the impact is too strong, and it snaps in half. Han laughs, shaking his head at the unexpected ferocity. Gelsu presses forward, taunting Han for being helpless without his stick. However, Han quickly reacts, blocking Gelsu's path with his leg, tripping him and throwing him off balance. Immediately, Gelsu curses himself for getting carried away. Before he can recover, Gelsu crashes into something he can't immediately identify. Han chuckles, acknowledging the challenge, and orders the girl to handle him. As realization dawns, Gelsu notices he slammed into the girl's chest. He jumps back, blushing, stammering out an apology. The girl laughs at his embarrassed expression and, wasting no time, activates her taser. At that moment, Gelsu recognizes that this must be the one they used on Mi. The girl steps closer, smirking, teasing that he's too cute for her to remain calm. Gelsu scrambles to dodge, but just as he moves, Mi kicks the taser out of her hand. Both Gelsu and the girl stare in disbelief as Mi stands fully awake, astonished. The girl can't believe Mi gained consciousness after being knocked out. Calmly, Mi pulls out a small piece of wood and explains she had prepared it earlier. A flashback reveals that when Han's stick hit the ground near her, a fragment broke off. Later, when the girl tried to tase her, Mi had already slipped the fragment inside her shirt, allowing the current to harmlessly flow through it. Returning to the present, the girl curses Mi for her cleverness, while Executive Han snaps at her for not finishing the job properly. Meanwhile, Mi and Gills quickly check on each other and confirm they're unharmed. With no words needed, they drop into a back-to-back stance, ready and silently agreeing it's time to teach these guys a lesson. Hearing them, Han laughs, shrugging lightly, saying he hadn't planned to make this a big scene, but he doubts they'll be any different without the taser. Before he can finish his sentence, Gilsu rushes in, smashing a punch straight into his face. Grinning fiercely, he warns Han to get ready to learn what happens when someone crosses the line, following up with several rapid blows. Meanwhile, Mi squares off against the girl. The girl admits Mi has impressive endurance and courage, but quickly adds that she should have stayed down. She warns that this won't end well, and brags about her own fighting skills. Unfazed, Mi cracks her fingers and responds that lying down might be more comfortable, but her personality can't tolerate injustice. With a smirk, she adds that if the girl wanted her kept down, she should have done a better job. The girl laughs, clearly enjoying herself, saying someone like Mi is even more fun to beat, and darts forward to attack. Back with Gilsu, he continues beating Han, eventually tossing him into a pile of garbage. Cracking his knuckles, he remarks that dealing with Han isn't a big deal. Han laughs again, eyeing Gilsu intently, and asks if that's really all he has, claiming his warm-up is finally done. Then, without warning, he swallows something and charges forward. He throws a punch which Gilsu dodges, noting with surprise that Han's endurance is stronger than expected. In a sudden shift, Han lands a solid hit to Gilsu's stomach, announcing that he's already studied Gilsu's fighting style. Without giving him a chance to recover, he follows up with a kick to the chin, mocking him for not fighting back. Blood trickles from Gilsu's nose as he silently wonders where Han's sudden burst of power came from. Han continues his relentless assault, demanding to know why Gilsu isn't talking trash anymore. Gilsu takes several hits, staggering slightly, thinking he can't believe he let himself get caught by someone like this. Determined, Gilsu plants his feet firmly on the ground, surprising Han. When Han throws his next punch, Gilsu doesn't budge. With a grin, he thinks this is exactly his favorite kind of opponent. In one swift motion, he grabs Han by the neck and drives a powerful kick into his stomach. Han struggles to break free, punching Gilsu in the face, but the boy holds on, countering immediately with a brutal headbutt. From there, the two exchange fierce blows, punches, kicks, neither holding back. Han thinks Gilsu is fighting recklessly, but suddenly the boy strikes Han's chin and drops into a crouch, explaining he wanted to know more about 6th Gate. Without hesitation, he delivers a devastating punch to Han's stomach, calling it a first-grade student's punch, which sends Han flying and knocks him out cold. Gilsu stands over Han, catching his breath, and says that Han never should have tried to beat a former loser using courage alone. As he reflects, he remembers Han seeming to swallow something before charging, but his thoughts quickly shift to Mitt and he turns to check on her. Meanwhile, Mitt claps, praising his finishing blow, adding casually that she's already done with her own fight. Looking down, the girl lies defeated at her feet. Gilsu hiccups in response, smirking slightly, thinking that Mitt reminds him a bit of Jang Sunbae. Wasting no time, Mitt grabs the girl by her clothes and demands to know why she's engaging in such dirty tricks. The girl trembles, insisting she knows nothing, claiming she has no connection to the Boxon group and was only doing it for the money. Hearing this, Gilsu recalls the boy from the karaoke who claimed he was from Boxon. Curious, he asks the girl what this group actually is and why they would pay her to do something like this. The girl looks surprised that they're unaware, but quickly adds that it makes sense if they're from 6th Gate. She explains that half a year ago, the Boxon group suddenly appeared in Jungyung as a high school association with enormous influence, so powerful that even the most notorious gangs bow to them. While other violent groups exist, Boxon's rise has been downright alarming. Gilsu asks if it's really just a high school association. The girl continues, saying she doesn't know how these two got mixed up with Boxon, but Han's objective was clearly targeting 6th Gate. A flashback shows the girl holding stacks of cash, asking if the job truly pays that much. Han laughs, explaining that the high amount ensures they won't slack off. He saw this as their best chance to get on Boxon's good side and maybe join Five Dragon by turning some 6th Gate kids into pawns. With that realization, Gilsu understands in shock that their true target wasn't Mytholyre at all, it was 6th Gate. The girl continues, clarifying that the Boxon group has already taken over most schools in Jungyung, except for 6th Gate in the northern region. A visual shows the map. Only 6th Gate School and Jinsang Technical High School remain unconquered in the north, while every other school has already fallen. Gils recalls Han saying he was curious about 6th Gate and wanted to test their skills. Connecting the dots, he realizes Han's real goal had been to gauge how strong 6th Gate truly is. Meanwhile, the girl clutches her waist and tries to slip away, insisting she's already told them everything and was just dragged into the mess. However, Mi grabs her clothes from behind, asking where she thinks she's going when her work isn't finished yet. The scene ends violently, with the girl's screams and blood splattering. Afterward, Mi and Gils walk home together. Breaking the silence, the boy apologizes, saying this only happened because she got mixed up with their school. Mi brushes it off, shrugging lightly and assures that it's fine. She asks why he's apologizing when the real villains are the people they fought. Then she adds that she's connected to 6th Gate through a blood relationship, one that can never be separated. Gilswell laughs, shaking his head, and brings up Jang Sunbae. Mi replies that if this hadn't happened now, it would have happened sooner or later anyway. Hearing that, Gilswell smiles and says he actually feels relieved. When Mi asks what he means, he explains that no matter what the Boxon group does, they'll never be able to cross 6th Gate as long as Jang Chung is standing. He adds casually, the people they met today were nothing special. Mi laughs, nodding in agreement, and claims that her brother is on a different level, but she adds that Gilswell isn't bad either. She smiles and thanks him for saving her twice now. Blushing slightly, Gilswell thinks he's just glad he could help her. The scene then shifts back to the street where Gilswell and Han fought. A boy picks up the injured tattooed boy who groans in pain, while Han kneels on the ground trying to explain himself. The boy speaks in a cold, serious tone, cutting Han off, saying that his problem is he never knows his place and keeps doing pointless things. Hearing that, Han begs for forgiveness, claiming he acted only because this was the last place left to win. Without warning, the boy kicks Han hard in the face, sending him sprawling to the ground. He makes it clear that, even though Han messes up, the plan to conquer northern Jongas is already in motion, and Han is reduced to just a player. Han lies there, confused, unsure what that even means. The boy laughs, mocking him silently, knowing it'll be entertaining to watch Han struggle in the Colosseum as nothing more than a pawn. It's then revealed who he really is, Tyrone Quan, the 5th dragon of the Boxon group. Somewhere else, a group of runaway boys stands with heads bowed while someone lectures them about wanting to join Heavenly Wind. One boy hesitantly mentions they've been on the run for a month and heard about free meals and lodging. He's immediately knocked out with a single punch. The attacker is Gong Jin Sob, leader of Heavenly Wind at Runaway Fam, a place that shelters runaways. The terrified boys flee, abandoning their unconscious friend. Gong laughs at their lack of loyalty and complains about the shortage of talented recruits these days. A follower mentions the Boxon group's influence has made finding useful people difficult. Gong agrees they need to expand their power beyond just being a runaway farm. Just then, Park arrives and asks how Heavenly Wind ended up short on manpower. Two boys angrily confront him, however. Park says he also wants to give an interview and claims he's on a different level than the boys who just fled. Seeing him, Gong walks over and sternly reminds Park that he's a traitor who already left them once. Calling him arrogant, he declares Park disqualified. Park responds calmly that he's willing to do any job, even the worst ones, to prove himself. Gong's expression softens slightly, and he smiles at Park's determination. The next day at school, Gallons flexes his sore hands, thinking briefly about getting medicine from the clinic. Then he spots Park being cornered by a red-haired boy from Kang's group. The red-haired boy pushes Park against the wall, grinning, and mentions that Kang is cold-hearted, but they're considering recruiting him again. He adds that if they ask In-Hiva nicely, he won't refuse. Park interrupts sharply, telling them to cut the nonsense and get to the point. Unfazed, the red-haired boy places a hand on Park's shoulder, remarking that he heard Park spent the holidays with some pretty runaways and wants him to introduce them so they can have some fun together. Park shakes his head and walks away, firmly refusing to work under them. Fuming at being ignored, the red-haired boy hurls a can at him with full force. Reacting without hesitation, Park kicks it back like a bullet. The two boys barely manage to dodge in time, eyes wide from the sudden counter. Still fuming, Park snaps, making it clear he only stayed because of the Gangon clan. He challenges them directly, questioning if they really think they can treat him this way once he leaves school. Taken aback, the red-haired boy blinks in surprise at the thought of him dropping out, while the green-haired boy wonders if Kang even knows what's going on. Park flips them off, shouting that the school is shitty, and tells them to stay and keep sucking up to Kang. From a hidden spot nearby, Gilsu watches the entire scene, processing in shock that Park is actually dropping out. Park begins packing all his belongings into a box, his expression set with determination, thinking he no longer cares about Kang or the Gangon clan as he now resolves to restart at Heavenly Wind. Just then, Gilsu calls out to him, asking to talk. Curious and cautious, he mentions hearing about the dropout and wonders if it's because of what happened in the arena. Park starts to leave, but Gilsu doesn't relent, continuing to press him and offering to fight Park properly again anytime to make things right. Park drops his box and grabs Gilsu by the collar. Furious, he demands to know if Gilsu is happy now, accusing him of thinking he served justice by sending him into despair. Leaning in closer, Park threatens to kill him outside at night instead of in some arena. With a final shove, he releases Gilsu and storms off, complaining about his ruined day. Gilsu watches him leave, remembering that day. Though he knows it's not really his business, something about it keeps nagging at him. Suddenly, a letter falls from Park's box, landing near Gilsu's feet. Startled, he looks down at it in surprise. Meanwhile, at another location, some boys sit around a fire. One complains about their complete failure this week, while another adds that the Heavenly Wind people collected money from their territory without any business morals. Their boss reassures them, saying they'll settle things with Heavenly Wind soon, since none of them are actually useful despite their numbers. Just then, Park arrives at their hideout, carrying a rod over his shoulder. Everyone freezes, reacting in surprise. He stands before them and lays down the ultimatum that they should work under Heavenly Wind or leave and go somewhere far away. The boys burst out laughing, unable to take him seriously. Recognizing Park, their boss mentions hearing he joined Kang's organization. One of the others sneers, mocking him as the biggest bat around, someone who only joins groups for personal benefit. They all join in, taunting him with the label. Meanwhile, Park just remembers Gong telling him to deal with Mayon, since the rival is targeting their territory. Gong had promised to consider bringing him back to Heavenly Wind if he handled it well. Thinking it over, Park realizes he has no other choice if he wants to restore his position. Suddenly, the boys charge at him with sticks. One swings at him, but Park reacts instantly, blocking the attack. Another rushes in from the side, shouting that he's wide open. Park blocks with his leg, grinning at the thought of his bulletproof skin, before kicking both attackers away with a single strike. Angered, their boss moves forward. Park tells them to stop bothering him and to come at him all at once. Fuming, the boss shouts for everyone to beat him to death. Without hesitation, all of them rush Park with their sticks, while he charges forward, thinking determinedly that he can't afford to lose. Meanwhile, Gong holds a photo of himself with Park. His sidekick asks if he'll really accept Park back. Laughing coldly, Gong makes it clear he won't. When asked why he gave Park the task, Gong explains that if Park succeeds, the rival farms will leave forever. If he fails, Gong loses nothing either way. With a flick of his lighter, he burns the photo and calls Park a black-hearted beast he plans to exploit completely before tossing it aside. Back at the hideout, Park drops his stick. All around him, the boys lie beaten on the ground. Walking forward with confidence, he approaches the main boss, who calls him a monster and remarks that he wasn't this strong when they first met. Laughing, Park makes it clear that his determination is different now. He reminds the boss that he had given them 2 choices before, but now only one remains: back off and leave. Without hesitation, he kicks the boy hard enough to splatter blood on his own face. Meanwhile, at school, 2 boys throw away trash, complaining that Park is still rude even after dropping out. One grumbles about having to toss his uniform, while the other mentions a rumor that Park is heading back to the runaway fam and has already reclaimed his position. Apparently, he's been taking out kids from 6th Gate he had beef with. The second boy warns they should be careful as Heavenly Wind boys are reckless and dangerous. They shake their heads, thinking it's weird the group even accepted him back. Nearby, Gilsu sits with Jin and Gyung. The other 2 chat quietly while Gilsu listens, then turns to Jin asking if he's also heard about Park dropping out. Jin confirms, noting it's no wonder they haven't seen him recently. Kang clearly left him, and Park only came to school to please Kang. Hearing that, Gilsoo wonders if Park had at least one close friend despite leaving so suddenly. Jang shakes his head, doubting anyone would stick around someone like that, and figures Park would be on his own without Kang's family backing him. That evening at an orphanage, children are playing a game. One boy faces a tree and calls out about roses of Sharon blooming. Shortly after, Gilsoo arrives and joins the game. When the boy turns and notices movement, he starts to call Gilsoo out, but stops when he actually sees him. Laughing, Gilsoo asks the kids if anyone named Jung Hasoon is around. From behind, a girl appears and introduces herself as Jung Hasoon. She holds a letter in her hand and reacts in surprise when she learns that Park dropped out. Gilsoo explains that Park dropped the letter while leaving and that he came to return it using the sender's address, since he doesn't know where Park lives. Thinking quietly to himself, Gilsoo reflects on how Park had no friends and left without packing properly. It felt wrong, he realizes, to throw away the one thing Park wanted to keep. The girl admits she has no way to give it to him either. When Gilsoo asks if they're close, she explains that after leaving the orphanage, she doesn't know where he lives. She only knew his school address, so she sent the letter there. Gilsoo reacts in shock, realizing that Park is from this orphanage. The girl confirms that Park is an orphan just like the children here, and that they grew up together from a very young age. A childhood memory appeared, showing some boys bullying the girl and making her fall. The other orphan children cried out for her, but one bully snapped at them, saying orphans shouted too much and demanded they bring money regularly. He taunted them further, telling them to call their parents if they didn't like it. That discrimination and bullying were part of everyday life for orphan children. Just then, young Park ran with a wooden stick, shouting at them for messing with his kids. She continued, explaining that Park always protected them outside and was their hero. The scene shifted to show Park sitting beaten up after becoming the target himself. The bullies laughed, mocking him for thinking an orphan could mess with them. They sneered, telling him that orphans without roots should know their place and live accordingly. At that time, no one Park could ask for help appeared. As he became a middle schooler, the harassment grew terrible, and his once bright personality gradually darkened. Around that time, he started hanging out with runaway femmes. After some time passed, Park returned to the orphanage as a completely different person. He arrived carrying many bags, his tattoos visible across his body. The children spotted him and reacted in surprise, asking if it was really him. Jung Hae-sun also felt shocked upon seeing him. She admitted that he looked unfamiliar and scary at first, but she added that to them he remained the same person at heart. All the children rushed to him happily, confirming that it was really Park. He smiled and told them not to find it strange, since they hadn't seen him in so long. He reassured them, confirming he was Park and that he missed all of them. In the present, Hae-sun finishes telling Gilsoo about how Park brought gifts every month, though their contact recently broke off. She can't believe he dropped out. Thinking to himself, Gilsoo realizes that the Park Hae-sun describes sounds like a completely different person from the one he knows. Tears fall from Hae-sun's eyes onto the letter. She admits she's scared sometimes that the Park she remembers will disappear and turn into a terrible person. Gilsoo watches silently, observing her cry. Meanwhile, at the Heavenly Wind Group's hideout, Gong beats a boy hard with a wrench, shouting that the boy should pay properly when they're providing food and shelter. The boy begs for forgiveness, promising to meet the target amount next month. Gong stops and, shaking his head, complains that kids these days lack courage, unlike back in his day. Turning toward Park, he praises him as the kind of crazy person he needs. He adds in disbelief that he can't believe Park actually destroyed the Yongon fam and survived. Park shrugs it off, downplaying the feat and mentioning that they weren't that strong. Leaning back in his chair, Gong decides that this is enough revenge for the betrayal. After a pause, he asks whether they should see if Park can truly become part of Heavenly Wind. Park freezes in shock, his eyes widening. Then he rushes forward, shouting at him. Fuming, he demands to know what Gong means, pointing out that the deal was that destroying Ma Yonggong would get him back into the group. Gong laughs lightly, explaining that the qualifications became stricter after Park's betrayal. Park hesitates, momentarily speechless, before angrily asking what he has to do. Leaning closer, Gong reminds him that he had said he'd do anything. Park glares at him, questioningly, unsure of where this is going. With a devil-like smile, Gong asks sharply if Park can also kill someone. Park reacts in shock, repeating the word kill. His confusion only amuses Gong, who bursts out laughing at his expression and tells him to relax since he actually believed it. Annoyed, Park snaps at him not to joke about such things. But the mood shifts again when Gong puts out his cigarette and clarifies that it's not entirely a joke, because what Park has to do will be just as thrilling as killing someone. When Park questions what he means, Gong answers by action rather than words. He lights a lighter in front of him and explains that Park just needs to set fire to a motorcycle. He hands over an envelope of money, adding that the deposit alone is worth a few million won, and notes that jobs like this are hard to find these days. Park confirms he's being asked to commit arson, and Gong casually agrees, revealing that if he completes it, he will be included back in Heavenly Wind. As Park walks away, his thoughts spiral, imagining everything that could go wrong and land him in juvenile detention, yet wondering if it's ridiculous to worry about that now. Lost in thought, he eventually reaches the orphanage where he grew up. frustration hits him and he curses himself for coming there like a fool before deciding to leave and go home to sleep. But just as he turns to go, Yonghwa-sun spots him from behind and calls out to confirm it's really him. A moment later, they're sitting on swings at a nearby park. Park asks why she's out walking alone at such a dangerous hour. Hae-sun explains she couldn't sleep, so she went for a walk. Then questions if he's okay since he hasn't been answering her calls. Park laughs it off, insisting he's fine and has just been busy. She doesn't buy it, calling him a liar because anyone can see something's wrong from his face. She mentions that coming here brought back memories of when they used to swing like this as kids. Park recalls being too busy pushing the other kids to actually swing himself. Hae-sun reminds him she once got hurt because he pushed her too hard, but Park doesn't remember doing that. Hae-sun wonders aloud if it's really him she remembers. Park only remembers being tired. When she offers to show him the scars, Park suddenly laughs and claims he remembers now, saying he pushed her hard because messing with kids was fun, and that's what he lived for back then. Hae-sun remembers all of that and how whenever they were bullied, Park would always show up to save them. He was their hero back then. Thinking about it now, she wonders if he can ever come back to the orphanage like the good old days. But instead of answering, Park just thanks her and gets up to leave, showing that it's already too late for him to go back. Confused, she asks what he means. Park tells her he might not be able to visit for a while, so she shouldn't worry and should take care of the kids in the meantime. He then tells her to go back and sleep since he's heading out, and with that he walks away. Left behind, Hae-sun watches him go, crying inwardly as she wonders why he's acting like this is their last time together. The next night, Park pours petrol all over a bike. He scans his surroundings, thinking everything is going according to plan as there aren't many cars and no one will show up at this hour. He tosses the petrol container aside. Pulling out a lighter, he reminds himself that all he has to do now is ignite it. It's simple. Nothing to overthink. In his mind, this is the only way he survives. Suddenly, a childhood memory surfaces. Park is an orphan, clothes tattered, everyone staring at him like he's something alien. Growing up without parents taught him that even the smallest things others take for granted never came easily to him. It always felt like being born weak in a world ruled by the strong. He remembers walking past a restaurant, seeing parents lovingly feeding their child. The sight stings, deepening the wound of what he never had. Another memory follows of schoolboys ganging up on him. They mock him for daring to argue with the homeroom teacher, who's always on their side. The main boy crouches beside him, laughing as he asks how an orphan bastard thought he could challenge them. Grabbing an iron piece in Park's hair, he tells him this beating is to teach him his place, then brings the iron dangerously close to Park's eyes. Park trembles, cursing through tears. Just then, salvation arrives. The door swings open and a man demands to know who they think they are. The boys turn to find several suited figures standing at the entrance. Their leader steps forward, questioning how foolish kids dare use violence in their district. The main boy dismisses them, refusing to leave just because they're wearing suits. He barely finishes speaking before the suited man moves, punching him hard and slamming him to the ground. Grabbing him by the hair, the man lifts him and scolds him for lacking even basic manners. The man is revealed to be Gong, who demands to know how these boys dare act tough in the Gang Unclan's district. One boy realizes they're in serious trouble, recognizing the name, and Park also reacts to hearing it. Gong immediately starts beating them, thrashing the group with effortless brutality. The boys beg for forgiveness, but he knocks them all down on his own, gripping the main boy in one hand and another kid in the other. In the midst of endless despair, Park understood something crucial, that he had to become a predator, not prey. A car suddenly pulls up, and the Gang Unclan boss steps out. He asks what all the commotion is about. A subordinate quickly bows and apologizes, explaining they had to clean up this poorly managed area. The boss orders him to have the district master report to his office later. The subordinate agrees as a red dragon symbol flashes behind the boss, emphasizing his authority. Park stares at the man in awe. On that day, he decided he would one day stand at the top of the predator chain, somewhere no one could hunt him again. Eventually, Park even got a dragon tattoo of his own. Back in the present, Park thinks he has no choice left. He will become like that someday. He steels himself, ready to light the fire. But just as he flicks the lighter, someone shouts at him to stop. He turns, only to be hit with a sudden splash of water. Park looks up in surprise and sees Gil-soo, who's yelling that if Park pulls something like this again, he'll seriously end up peeing himself. 3 hours earlier, Gil-soo and Gyung walk out of school. As they step outside, Gil-soo notices someone waiting near the gate. When he looks closely, he realizes it's Hae-sun, standing there with tears in her eyes. She quietly asks if they can talk. They move to a bench, and once they sit, Gil-soo brings up his concern that Park seems about to do something dangerous. Hae-sun nods, explaining she already sensed it. She says the air around Park felt heavy and uneasy, reminding her of the time she herself once planned to run away. She recalls how earlier Park left her saying he wouldn't be around for a while and asking her to watch the kids in his place. The memory hits her again and she begins to cry, saying it felt like a final goodbye. Embarrassed but desperate, she asks Gil-soo for help. Hearing this, Gil-soo starts to worry about what Park might be planning. Meanwhile, up on the rooftop of the Heavenly Wind hideout, two boys are happily admiring their Korean barbecue, joking about eating in secret while others aren't around. The mood instantly changes when the rooftop door creaks open and they freeze, convinced Gong has caught them. Instead, Gil-soo steps out laughing, calling their setup a runaway fan party. Relieved but annoyed, the boys warn him to leave since he isn't supposed to be there. Gil-soo ignores it, thinking back to Jin's tip about a group living in an abandoned villa near the amusement park, and realizes he's finally found the right spot. He tells them he's looking for Park and needs to deliver an important message. One boy reacts with surprise at Park's name, while the other shakes his head and says it's already too late as Park has probably already committed a crime by now. The remark stops Gil-soo in his tracks. The boy goes on, saying Park was bound to end up like this anyway, and warns Gil-soo to disappear before he gets beaten up too. However, even before finishing the sentence, Gil-soo grabs the boy's mouth hard, demanding to know where Park is since he doesn't have time to waste. The scene cuts back to the present, where Park angrily wonders how Gil-soo even found him. Gil-soo fires back that he shouldn't commit crimes so carelessly, and insists that something like this can't be allowed. Park storms toward him, grabbing his collar and shouting, asking who Gil-soo thinks he is to judge him, and whether he has any idea what kind of life Park is living. Just as Park raises his fist, Gil-soo blurts out that someone was desperate and didn't know what Park might do. The words stop Park instantly. He realizes Gil-soo must be talking about Hae-sun. Gil-soo continues, explaining that she believes Park is truly kind and cares about him so much that she even asked a stranger for help, despite barely knowing him. He urges Park not to run from his life, reminding him that there are still people who trust him. Hearing this, Park slowly lowers the lighter, thinking that this is exactly the kind of thing Hae-sun would say. Before either of them can say more, a voice cuts in, commenting that the scene feels straight out of a drama. They turn to see Gong approaching with 3 other boys. He claps mockingly as he steps closer, saying the moment was almost touching enough to make him cry. Park stammers in shock, and Gong casually reveals that he followed him the entire time. When Park questions him, Gong holds up his phone, showing video footage of Park pouring petrol over the bike. In an instant, Park understands that Gong recorded everything, that this was all a setup. Gong flicks on a lighter and laughs, calling Park nothing more than a disposable card, just an orphan to use and throw away. The moment Gong moves to burn the bike, both Gil-soo and Park sprint toward him, shouting for him to stop. Before they can reach him, Gong drops the lighter with a wide, satisfied grin. Suddenly, a blur cuts through the air above them. Gong looks up just in time to see Jin kicking the lighter away before landing beside them, grumbling about how exhausting this is. Just then, Gong climbs over the wall, calling out to see if they're late. Park freezes, completely stunned that Jin and Gong appeared out of nowhere. Seeing their arrival, Gil-soo gives them a thumbs up, silently confirming that their timing was perfect. Jin and Gil-soo then casually mention that they had managed to get everything ready in advance, showing how well prepared they were. A flashback reveals how it happened. Gil-soo rushes out of the Heavenly Wind hideout, realizing this is arson and he absolutely cannot afford to be late. As he thinks it over, he notices only 2 weak members were present and wonders where the rest of the group disappeared to. Acting quickly, he pulls out his phone and sends a message to the group chat, urgently calling Gong and Jin to Sangsuri Park's parking lot without any explanation. Returning to the present, Gong jumps down awkwardly and immediately shouts for someone to help him. Jin just laughs and tells him to handle it himself. Watching them, Gil-soo reflects on how he called them so suddenly and feels genuinely grateful they still came running. Gong looks at the group with clear irritation, asking if they all showed up for some kind of club activity. He accuses Park of fooling him just to mess around with a bunch of losers. Jin immediately sets the record straight, saying he shouldn't lump them together with Park and that they're here to help their friend. Gong chimes in, proudly announcing that he even postponed a blind date to show up. Fired up, he charges straight at Gong, insisting he's the strongest one here. However, just as his punch is about to land, someone steps in. Another boy blocks the blow with both arms, and the impact instantly raises painful blisters on Gong's hands. Realizing something is off, Gong recoils. The boy calmly lifts his arms, revealing iron guards strapped to them, and remarks on how amusing their new friend is before launching a counterattack. This is Hwang Hee-sung, 18 years old, ranked number 3 in Heavenly Wind. Seeing Gong in trouble, Jin shouts and rushes forward to help. Before he can reach him, another boy cuts him off, grumbling about how all the types of people he hates seem to have shown up today. He throws a punch, but Jin slips past it. The boy doesn't slow down, firing off a flurry of strikes while observing that Jin clearly learned boxing and that his weaving is surprisingly sharp. Jin dodges swiftly, thinking he can evade the attacks and find an opening to counter. Suddenly, a sharp cut appears on his cheek, and he realizes the boy's gloves have razor-like attachments along the sides. The boy laughs, noting that he also knows boxing. Jin quickly understands this is Pyo Mincheo, 18 years old and the number 2 member of Heavenly Wind. Meanwhile, Gil-soo charges forward, cursing under his breath. Before he can reach them, another boy steps in, taunting that Gil-soo looks like the most delicious target among the 3. He wields what seems to be an iron weapon, and Gil-soo quickly recognizes him as Kan Kyoshi, 18 years old and the number 1 member of Heavenly Wind. His taunt surprises Gilsoo even more when he realizes Khan is speaking Japanese. Just then Khan swings with incredible speed and force. Gilsoo raises both arms to block, but the strike hits with such intensity that blood spills from his mouth, despite his defense. Stunned, he struggles to comprehend how the attack could break through his guard and wonders how he's supposed to block something with such overwhelming power. Meanwhile, the guy laughs maniacally, clearly enjoying himself, before landing a powerful blow on Gilsoo. From the side, Gong mocks Park, taunting him about his friends being in danger. But before he can react further, Park delivers a strong kick to his chest, sending him flying. A sharp metallic sound rings out on impact, and Park freezes, shocked. Gong then reveals he's wearing a bulletproof vest, leaving Park even more stunned. At the same moment, Gong pulls out steel knuckles, preparing to spar with him. It's revealed that Gong's full name is Gong Jinseo. He's 19 years old, and the leader of Heavenly Wind. Without hesitation, Park immediately attacks, rejecting any shared memories between them. Gong blocks the strike and complains about how he fed and sheltered Park when he was weak, only to be met with an attack from this ungrateful person before landing a powerful punch to Park's face. The single blow leaves Park stunned, thinking about how crazy Gong's strength is as blood stains the brass knuckles. Gong laughs and warns that after being beaten like dogs, they'll finally come to their senses and realize whose side they dared to oppose. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to Jang, who is blocking attacks with both hands while his arms tremble. The number 2 member comments on how well he's holding up for someone from 6th gate. As he fights, Jang feels his arm ache just from blocking, and he realizes how dangerous it would be to actually get hit by that strange weapon. The boy doesn't relent. He launches multiple strikes, forcing Jang to dodge and retreat. While stepping back, he notices that the boy isn't using his fists. He's swinging the weapon diagonally instead of straight. A thought strikes him that if he puts his back against a wall, it will remove the space the weapon needs to swing effectively. Acting on this, Jang positions himself against the wall and jumps upward, catching the boy by surprise. With determination, he declares he'll make it much harder for the boy to use that weapon. Just as he's about to strike, the scene cuts to Jin, who is blocking attacks while the sharp attachments on the weapon leave multiple bleeding cuts on his hands. The number 3 member mocks him, ridiculing his boxing training and claiming his fists can easily cut through guards before throwing another punch. Reacting quickly, Jin ducks and thinks about how he clearly saw the attack coming. He notices that the fist's range has widened, leaving dodging as his only viable option. As the boy charges forward, calling Jin a coward who got lucky, Jin realizes that being able to dodge also gives him the chance to counter. Seizing the opportunity, he drives a hard punch into the boy's chin, drawing blood. The boy is left in disbelief, thinking Jin has already adapted to his style. Without hesitation, Jin launches a flurry of punches, offering to teach proper boxing basics before the boy's next tremendous strike can land. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to Gilsoo, who crashes into a car. The number 1 member spins his stick and comments on how entertaining it is to watch Koreans struggle, promising to make things even more exciting. Gilsoo realizes that the weapon and the boy's unpredictable fighting style are serious problems. Gathering his resolve, he gets up and charges forward angrily, calling out the boy's Japanese heritage and telling him to stop babbling since they're in Korea. Before Gilsoo can close the distance, the boy swings his stick hard into Gilsoo's leg, explaining that although he's Japanese, Gong took him in when he had nowhere else to go, and now he's repaying that favor by treating Gong's enemies as his own. He continues his assault, beating Gilsoo with the stick while declaring that he will use any method against anyone who tries to stop Heavenly Wind and will kill every Korean except its members. Finally, a massive strike sends Gilsoo tumbling backward between 2 cars. Gilsoo lies on the ground, groaning, thinking that he can't win as long as the weapon is in play. His gaze drifts downward, landing on his shoes and laces. Just then the boy approaches, taunting him that Koreans are stubborn and should just give up. However, he freezes in confusion when he sees that Gilsoo has removed his shoes and tied the laces together. With a glare, Gilsoo angrily tells him to come closer. The boy laughs, mocking the fool trying to use shoes as a weapon, and launches a tremendous attack. To his surprise, Gilsoo blocks the stick with the shoelaces, laughing at how he's using whatever's available. He wraps the shoes and laces around the boy's entire hand, then delivers a powerful strike, declaring that if you don't have a weapon, you simply make one. Before the attack lands, the scene cuts to blood dripping on the ground. Park gasps, badly beaten while Gong observes, noting he hasn't seen that glaring look in a long time, remembering Park had the same expression when they first met. Ignoring Gong's remark, Park tells him not to bring up the past since it means nothing, before attacking again with a kick. Gong blocks it and reminds Park that no matter what he does, his past can't be erased. After all, he learned that very kick from Gong himself. Pointing to the iron gear on Park's leg, Gong emphasizes that he gave Park this item along with all the techniques he uses, everything coming from Heavenly Wind. He declares firmly that Park can't erase that past because he's a mad dog of Heavenly Wind. A flashback shows Park walking home from school with his downcast face. He spent so much time on the ground back then that he doesn't even remember ever seeing a clean blue sky. As he passes an alley, he notices a group of people eating together and sees their boss congratulating everyone on a good week. It's Gong, standing with his other members, announcing a group dinner now that their income has increased and telling them to eat as much as they want. The boys cheer, expressing excitement about finally getting to eat meat after so long and thanking him for the meal. Park watches in surprise, while it's shocked at seeing people look so carefree and happy. Suddenly, his stomach growls loudly from hunger, and all their eyes turn toward him. One boy tells the beggar-looking kid to get lost if he has nothing to do there. Cursing himself for skipping lunch, Park starts to leave. At that moment, Gong calls out to him, inviting him over. Gong assures that he can come starting tomorrow, because he likes boys with that glaring look. Park stands frozen as he just approached them because he wanted to understand the reason behind their happiness. The scene shows Park training punches and kicks alongside Gong. As he observes, Gong notes that Park's kick is stronger than his punch, and mentions he's finally found someone useful after a long time. Moments later, he calls for something to be brought over, and hands Park a box, explaining that in this world it doesn't matter how strong you are, what matters is that winners are strong. In other words, if you win, you're strong, regardless of the method. He tells Park never to forget this lesson. Park opens the box and finds the same gear he now uses on his legs, staring at it in surprise. With this, he believed in the hope Heavenly Wind gave him and faithfully followed their instructions. However, it didn't take long for him to realize that Heavenly Wind wasn't the rope that would save him. It was the rotten rope that would strangle him. The scene shifts back to the present. Gong grabs Park by the head, telling him that his betrayal made it seem like he'd never return. But seeing him come back now looks pathetic. He declares that no one can change their origin, calling Park a lone orphan with no roots. Just as Gong is about to strike, Gilsu appears, carrying the defeated #1 weapon, and blocks the attack with it. Gong is surprised that Gilsu saved the weapon, and he laughs, confirming it. At that moment, a voice from behind remarks that they would have won against everyone with a weapon like that. Gong turns to see both Jin and Jung standing victorious over their defeated opponents. Jin comments, saying that people who rely on equipment to fight were showing too much arrogance. Gong surveys his fallen crew members and realizes that Heavenly Wind has lost. Interrupting the moment, Gilsu says he has something to settle with Park and angrily tells Gong that it would be better if he stayed out of it. Seeing him squaring up, Gong warns them that he doesn't understand why they're going so far for Park, but he warns them to be careful since that traitor isn't worth the trouble. In a flashback, Park is beating some boys alongside other Heavenly Wind members. He angrily questions how those losers dared cross him and suddenly recognizes one of them as someone who used to bully him. Desperate, the boy grabs Park's leg and begs for forgiveness. Admitting his mistake, Park simply laughs, reminding him how he used to say the same things, yet none of them ever listened. He grabs the boy's ear, deciding ears are useless if they can't listen properly, then pulls out a knife and cuts it off. The boy screams while Park walks away with his crew. Just like this, after joining Heavenly Wind freed Park from weakness and turned him into a predator, making him addicted to the taste of power and willing to do anything to prove himself. The scene then shifts to Park smoking on the rooftop of Heavenly Wind's hideout when Gong appears, mentioning a good business opportunity. Park casually asks if the Gangon clan made them an offer, but Gong says it's something more interesting and brings up Bakbu Jang from their last job. Park remembers him as the voice-fishing hunk. Gong explains they'll provide manpower to Bak without doing any of the actual work. When Park asks where they're supposed to go, Gong mentions Junggale Love Orphanage. Instantly, Park reacts in shock since he grew up there. Gong continues explaining that the director is a gambling addict who lost everything, including the orphanage funds, and is now trying to make money by selling children. He calls the director a perfect cash cow. Hearing this, the iron weapon Gong once gifted him slips from Park's hand and strikes the ground. Park storms off in a fury, gripping the baseball bat as he goes. From this, he just realized that he had been living in an illusion, forgetting the family he had before Heavenly Wind, and now all that buried anger is boiling over. As he approaches the orphanage, he seethes at the thought of children being forced to suffer under people like this, blaming God for allowing such trash to exist. When he reaches the window, he spots the director and the others casually playing cards, and that sight pushes him over the edge. He vows that he no longer cares about anything else. If they touch those kids, he'll kill them all. With that resolve, his rage finally snaps, and he smashes through the window with the bat. Chaos erupts immediately. Two boys scramble away, shouting that the police must have arrived, while another frantically insists the round should be invalid. Park doesn't even look at them. He steps onto the table with pure fury radiating from him. Director Choi lifts his head and instantly freezes, recognizing Park with terror in his eyes. Park confronts him without hesitation. He accuses the director of neglecting the children and crossing a line by dragging them into his gambling mess. As he speaks, he swings the bat down. Not at the director, but close enough that the impact still rattles Choi and leaves him trembling. With this, Park makes it clear he wants to kill him, but then gives him one option: comply, or he'll expose everything. The illegal gambling, the debts, and the attempt to involve the children in crime. Meanwhile, Hae-sun is woken up by a child who nervously reports hearing strange sounds coming from the first floor. Another girl immediately worries that it might be robbers, but Hae-sun calms them down and decides to check for herself, assuming they probably just mistook thunder for something else. As she heads downstairs, however, she suddenly spots a figure in the dim light and stops in her tracks. To her shock, it's Park, walking slowly with a baseball bat in hand. When she calls out his name, he turns toward her, and that's when she notices the tears streaming down his face. The scene shifts to a flashback. At Heavenly Wind headquarters, Gong lights a cigarette and brings up how the orphanage director suddenly cut contact with him and went straight to Baek Bujang instead. He narrows his eyes, questioning what Park is planning. Park laughs it off and asks how long Gong expects him to stay in a group of kids when better opportunities are out there. He compares himself to a wolf forced to run with dogs. Hearing this, Gong stands up, slips on his brass knuckles, and grabs Park by the hair, accusing him of trying to steal the business. He promises to beat him, just enough to keep him alive. In the end, Park had to take responsibility for what happened. He was alone, and that isolation made it easy for him to be dragged into dirty work. Back in the present, Park stands firm and tells Gong he'll never allow anyone to lay a hand on those children. Gong responds with a calm, almost smug tone as he reveals he had known about Park's connection to the orphanage from the start. He explains that he accepted Park because he believed they shared the same nature, only to later discover that Park had chosen the orphanage over Heavenly Wind. From there, Gong admits he plotted revenge and even felt thrilled when Park came back alone, laughing loudly at the memory. Park's anger spikes, while Gong declares that they should settle things once and for all. Before the tension explodes, Galsu steps in and questions why Gong refuses to back down when he's clearly outnumbered 4-1. Gong slowly turns, noticing Jin and Young standing behind him, and breaks into a mocking laugh. He then questions who's truly alone in this situation. Right on cue, Galsu jerks in shock as dozens of boys suddenly appear, flooding in with sticks in hand. Seeing them, Young shouts that they're all Heavenly Wind members, while Jin curses at how quickly they've shown up. The newcomers gather around Gong, checking if he's unharmed. While Galsu can only stammer in disbelief at how the situation has flipped, Gong, now fully amused, orders his crew to beat them all down. The Heavenly Wind members charge forward with sticks, shouting threats as they rush in. Seeing them swarm, Gilsu feels fear rise in his chest and wonders when they gathered in such numbers, especially while he's already exhausted from fighting. Right then, Jin appears behind him and suggests they stick together. A moment later, Gyung joins in, adding that although numbers matter, this situation still isn't beyond handling since 3 people can shoulder more than 1. Across the chaos, Park watches them in surprise and wonders why they're willing to fight until the end when none of this is their responsibility. Before he can think further, a tremendous punch from Gong slams into Park and sends him flying backward. Gong laughs and tells him not to get distracted since they still need to finish their business. Pushing himself back up, Park agrees it's time to end this horrible relationship, and the full battle erupts. All at once, the 3 boys clash with the entire Heavenly Wind group, trading blows and curses as the fight intensifies. Gilsu blocks attacks with the sticks, thinking about how overwhelming it is to face so many opponents at once. Suddenly, Jin shoves away an attacker who was about to strike Gilsu. With this, he shouts at Gilsu to call out when he's in trouble so he can help him like this. Grateful, Gilsu thanks him as the 3 regroup and position themselves back to back, declaring they'll fight while protecting one another. In that moment, Gilsu realizes he isn't alone after all. Meanwhile, Park attacks Gong, but the bulletproof jacket absorbs most of the impact. In response, Gong laughs, calling it a tickle, and immediately counterattacks while mocking Park for leaving Heavenly Wind. Park struggles to block, thinking about how the jacket dulls his strikes while the brass knuckles make dodging nearly impossible. When he lifts his leg to defend, the powerful blow dents his gear. Park curses as the equipment breaks, and without hesitation, Gong rushes forward, declaring he'll send Park back to his loser era. A moment later, a devastating strike slams Park into the ground. Gong approaches, laughing, and tells him he should finally understand that without Heavenly Wind, and without Gong himself, he's nothing more than a helpless loser. Park tries to push himself up, wondering if losing his gear means this is really the end. Just then, he hears someone shouting to stay united and not back down. He turns to see the 3 boys fighting with everything they have, declaring they'll show the real power of Sixth Gate. Watching them stand firm despite the odds, Park feels ashamed for even thinking about giving up. With renewed resolve, he throws the broken gear at Gong and declares he doesn't need it anymore. He gets into his fighting stance, determined to stand his ground until the very end. Gong laughs at the sudden bravado and promises to show Park what happens when he doesn't listen before charging forward. Park feels a surge of fear, thinking his bluff might backfire since one clean hit from those knuckles would be enough to finish him. The opposite happens as Park slips past the attack with unexpected speed. Right away, he realizes in shock that his steps feel lighter than ever, and suddenly he can dodge everything. With each movement, he continues evading Gong's strikes with effortless precision, likely because the heavy iron gear is finally off his leg. Even Gong pauses in surprise at Park's sudden burst of speed and agility. Seizing the moment, Park drives his knees straight into Gong's face and realizes this is his true speed, faster, sharper, and stronger than he ever knew. From there, he launches a series of kicks, prompting Gong to grow furious as he shouts that this is nothing but a pointless last struggle. Gong lunges again, but Park leaps upward, making Gong look up in shock. While airborne, Park prepares his final strike and thinks about how long it has been since he fought without gear. A memory surfaces of Gong handing him the equipment and telling him never to take it off because winners are strong and the gear would protect him. In that instant, Park realizes he never once removed the gear since joining Heavenly Wind. With that clarity, he slams Gong into the ground and thinks bitterly about how the thing he believed was protecting him all this time was actually the shackle that held him back. Gong crashes to the ground, overwhelmed by the fact that Park actually pushed him back. As the shock sinks in, he refuses to accept being defeated and his mind snaps back to the past, specifically the moment Park first joined Heavenly Wind and received the gear. In that flashback, Park lies among the other children, clutching the gear tightly to his chest. Gong stands nearby with a follower who questions why he accepted someone they know nothing about when the group is already becoming harder to manage. Gong simply laughs. With cold indifference, he explains that he doesn't trust Park at all, and he's only using him. When the follower reacts, Gong points out that Park is an orphan no one would search for if he died, making him the perfect disposable tool. In that moment, it becomes clear Gong was never Park's friend. He was his enemy from the very beginning. Snapping back to the present, Gong remembers all of this and, filled with rage, declares that Heavenly Wind's Gong won't lose to a parasite. He lunges forward like a rabid dog. However, Park moves with lightning speed and delivers a devastating kick straight into his face, breaking Gong's teeth. Park reminds him that strength doesn't make someone a winner, but winners become strong. Across the chaos, Gelsu glances over mid-fight and sees Gong collapsed on the ground, clearly defeated. Park then adds that this lesson is what Gong himself once taught him. Gong sits on the ground clutching his broken tooth while his gang members erupt into panic. As the realization hits them, they whisper frantically about Park winning and wonder what to do now that their leader has fallen. Some suggest retreating, unsure whether fighting any longer makes sense. Before they can scatter, Gelshu shouts at them to stop wasting time and fight if they really want to. That single call-out makes them hesitate, but once they register that Gong is truly defeated, they lose all courage. One by one, they turn and flee, supporting each other as they escape and agreeing there's no point dragging this out anymore. With the battle finally over, Park collapses onto the ground, staring at the sky in disbelief. He thinks about how impossible it feels that he actually won, that he managed to defeat Gong. A moment later, Gelshu walks over, smiling as he extends a hand. He inquires why Park is lying around after winning, and casually mentions that Park fights much better without the gear. Hearing this, Park looks up in surprise and remembers the day Gelshu suggested a fair fight next time after their match in the arena. Realizing Gelshu hasn't changed at all, Park breaks into a smile and takes his hand, thanking him. Gelshu simply replies that he should be thanking someone else instead. Right on cue, a trembling voice calls out from behind, and Hae-sun runs toward them with tears streaming down her face. Park asks in shock what she's doing here, but she throws her arms around him, crying and asking if he's okay. Park gently reassures her that he's fine now and everything's alright. The next day at school, Gelshu frantically digs through his bag, clearly anxious about something. Noticing his panic, Jin asks about it, and Gelshu explains that he rode the bus that morning but can't find his wallet. He worries he must have lost it last night and stresses out even more, knowing his check card and student ID were inside. Trying to calm him down, Jin laughs and suggests he probably just left it at home. Before Gelshu can respond, two boys walk past them chatting loudly about the rumors surrounding Heavenly Wind. They claim the entire group was attacked and beaten and even say Park was sent to juvenile detention for getting involved in something shady. They laugh as if it's all a joke. Gelshu and Jin overhear everything. While Gelshu initially waves it off as nonsense, he suddenly freezes when he spots Park standing right in front of the boys, glaring at them with a cold stare. One of the boys keeps laughing about Park's life being completely ruined, unaware that Park is only steps away. The moment he finally notices, he flinches in fear as Park asks whose life is supposedly screwed. Terrified, the boy stammers and questions why a dropout is even at school. Park ignores the comment and simply walks past him, saying he doesn't need to know. However, he warns the boy to keep his mouth shut and stop causing trouble. Otherwise, he'll beat him senseless in the fighting arena. Watching this unfold, Gelshu can't help smiling, realizing Park has come back to school after everything. Park sits in the classroom thinking about how long it's been since he last came to school, and how quickly everything seems to have moved forward. As he reflects, he realizes that school life isn't really his style, yet he's doing what he truly wanted to do. A flashback appears, showing Hae-sun from the previous night, tearfully telling him to come back as the person she knew after he dropped out and got involved in crime. Park agrees, hoping to stop her crying. When she asks if he'll start attending school again, he hesitantly says yes, and she makes him seal it with a pinky promise. Back in the present, Park smiles, thinking about the promise he made and knowing he has to fulfill it. Suddenly, Kang bursts through the classroom door with his two friends, remarking that he didn't expect to see Park again so soon. He brings up the news about Heavenly Wind being destroyed, but notes that Park seems fine. Annoyed, Park angrily tells him it has nothing to do with him. Kang steps closer, offering to overlook Park's mistake and take him back. Park, however, laughs and refuses, starting to walk away. Before he can leave, Kang reminds him that with Heavenly Wind gone, He has nowhere else to return, and joining the Gang clan as a standby unit is his only way to survive. Unyielding, Park angrily tells him to mind his own business and declares that he'll decide his own path in life before walking out. That night, Park packs his belongings, thinking about how joining the Gang clan as a standby unit would at least provide a semi-basement to live in. As he reflects, he realizes that being able to entrust his future to others is the best condition for an orphan like him. His goal had always been to belong somewhere, to take pride in a strong organization, and to feel the peace that comes with it. But the more he struggled, all that remained for him was violence and betrayal, and he no longer wanted to be part of any organization. After leaving, he arrives at the orphanage, where Hae-sun is busy cooking while many children play and run around. Just then, Park enters and scolds the children for not listening to their Nuna when he isn't around. Excited, the kids run up to him, calling his name. Park responds lovingly, thinking to himself that what he really wants is a family. Turning around, he notices some unexpected visitors, and sees that Gilsoo and Jang have arrived. Gilsoo jokes that they're just customers today. Hae-sun explains that she invited them because they helped Park and deserve to be repaid. Despite that, Park doesn't look very happy about this. Breaking the silence, Gilsoo brings up that there's still unfinished business between them, adding that he'd be disappointed if Park slipped away now. Park shoots him a confused look and points out that they'd all be dead if something like that happened again. With the tension easing, the group soon settles around a table, chatting loudly and enjoying the moment. As they eat, Jung nudges Jung to grill the meat properly. Jung laughs and shifts the mood, teasing Park about his earlier bluffing and warning him not to ask for help next time. Wanting to steer the conversation elsewhere, Gilsoo asks about the motorcycle situation. Park explains that he still needs to compensate the owner once they show up. Curious, Gilsoo presses further, asking who the owner even is and why their demand seems so serious. Park pauses, thinking it over, before admitting he has no idea, only that the owner is rumored to be a well-known student. Meanwhile, at the fight location, a crowd of boys has gathered around the owner of the bike that Park tried to set on fire. Soon the owner spots Park's lighter on the ground and notices the lingering oil on the bike. His expression darkens and he crushes the lighter in his fist, swearing that whoever tried to burn his boom boom will die when he finds them. This boy is revealed to be Hwang Hyuk-jin, the leader of Jinsang Technical High School and a motorcycle gooner. Just then, one of Hwang's guys calls out to take a look at something. As Hwang turns, he freezes in shock when he realizes who the culprit is. Meanwhile, the scene shifts back to Gilsoo asking Park if that person had any connection with Heavenly Wind. Park explains there's no connection at all since Heavenly Wind members were punished right after the incident. Surprised, Gilsoo wonders why, and Park clarifies that big organizations like Gang clan sometimes use Heavenly Wind for dirty work. In this arson case, the ones who ordered the job ended up punishing them afterward. Confused and uneasy, Gilsoo wonders whether such harsh punishment was really necessary and what kind of organization would do something like that. Park replies that he hasn't heard much about them around the neighborhood, but they're called the Boxon group, and they're known to be extremely ruthless. Hearing the name, Gilsoo stiffens, remembering that he and Jang Mi once had a run-in with members of that very group. The next day, Gilsoo cheerfully greets Jang Mi, who looks stunning and instantly makes the boys around them blush. As he looks at her, Gilsoo thinks back to the message he sent her after hearing Boxon group was dominating the area. He'd been worried she might get dragged into something and asked if everything was okay. She reassured him that she was fine. To his surprise, Jang Mi then suggested they shouldn't just text and asked if he wanted to have dinner together. The moment he read it, Gilsoo felt his face heat up and his heart start racing, stunned and thrilled that she was the one asking to meet. In the present, they walk together, chatting and laughing, while Gilsoo secretly wonders if this weekend meetup actually counts as a date. Soon after, they arrive at a restaurant, where the waiter sets down plates of pasta and mushroom risotto. Gilsoo recommends both dishes, mentioning he heard the pasta is especially good. Jang Mi nods and agrees to try them. As he pours water, Gilsoo thinks proudly about how he planned the entire course after researching date spots online and feels confident Jang Mi will enjoy everything. He encourages her to dig in, but as he watches her, he notices she looks hesitant and slightly unhappy. Trying to fix the mood, he suggests going to a cafe afterward, and Jang Mi responds with a forced laugh while agreeing. This only makes Gilsoo more worried that she might be uncomfortable. Later, they arrive at Wonderland Cafe, where Gilsoo looks around and praises the interior and the display of sweets. In his mind, he reassures himself that even if she didn't enjoy the restaurant, desserts are always a safe win. However, when the order totals 23,000 won, he reaches for cash since he lost his wallet and accidentally spills his coins all over the counter. Embarrassed, he kneels to pick them up, while Jang Mi watches with concern. Seeing him struggle, she offers her credit card, but Gilsoo quickly refuses and insists on paying himself. Jang Mi then smiles softly and explains she invited him today because she never properly repaid him for his help. In that moment, Gilsoo realizes this wasn't a date after all. It was her way of saying thank you. They get their cakes, and Jang Mi gently suggests they start eating. As soon as they begin, Gilsoo grows quiet, feeling bad as it sinks in that she only wanted to repay him, which is why she asked to meet. With that thought, he realizes she must have felt burdened, and it explains why she looked uncomfortable earlier. Trying to clear the air, he reveals to her that this is his first time going out alone with a female friend, and that he planned what he thought was a date course, one that must have been terrible. Jang Mi reacts with immediate shock and hurriedly insists he is completely misunderstood. To his surprise, she admits she doesn't actually eat Western food or enjoy going to cafes. Growing more honest, Jang Mi confesses this is her first time stepping into a pink cafe, and the whole experience felt incredibly awkward. Gil-soo in turn admits he also felt uncomfortable in places like this, and didn't enjoy the restaurant food either. He had simply assumed all girls liked those things. Jang Mi finally laughs, breaking the tension, and suggests they do something else instead. Right after they reach the amusement park, and Jang Mi casually rests a hand on Gil-soo's shoulder, teasing him about how new he looks to the place. He's clearly nervous, which only amuses her more. She leans in close, whispers something that makes him flustered, and tells him to buckle up. A moment later, they're strapped into a big thrill ride. Gil-soo is suffering the entire time, wondering how this ended up so different from the calm moment they had earlier. Meanwhile, Jang Mi is having the time of her life, screaming in excitement and enjoying every second. As the ride finally stops, Gil-soo stumbles out and immediately throws up while Jang Mi pats his back, laughing at how rough he's taking it. She stays upbeat, treating his nausea like something totally normal for a first-timer, and acts as if he'll adjust soon enough. Without slowing down, she's already ready for the next ride. Gil-soo just stares at her, completely drained, while she keeps reminding him that there are plenty more rides waiting. They head to the Viking ship next, where Jang Mi is shouting with full excitement again while Gil-soo is barely hanging on. After that comes the roller coaster, and by the end of it, foam is literally coming out of his mouth while Jang Mi calls it the highlight of the day. They move on to yet another attraction, and Gil-soo is clearly terrified, hoping it won't drop, only for it to instantly yeet out. By the time that ride ends, Gil-soo collapses to his knees, completely done with life. Jang Mi quickly hauls him back up, annoyed that the fun ended too soon. Meanwhile, two boys in the back recognize him, whispering about him being Lee Gil-soo from 6 Gate High. As night settles in, Gil-soo and Jang Mi walk down the road chatting. The girl laughs and mentions how refreshing it feels to go out like this after spending days locked in study rooms. Gil-soo agrees, admitting he had a lot of fun, even though it was terrifying, and thinks to himself that it was still the most fun he's ever had. Eventually, Jang Mi thanks him for hanging out and suggests they do it again sometime. Gil-soo immediately agrees, and after hyping himself up, gathers enough courage to ask if they can meet again next week. Just then, headlights shine on them, and a voice calls out that he finally found them after searching all day. As the lights draw closer, Hwang appears, making Gil-soo flare up in anger, until he notices the bike and freezes in shock. Right after, Hwang holds up a wallet, asking if someone happened to forget it. A quick flashback shows Hwang picking up the wallet from the ground and spotting Gil-soo's student ID inside. He recognizes the name instantly, Lee Gil-soo from 6 Gate, and he can't help but laugh, already sensing that things are about to get a lot more interesting. Back in the present, Gil-soo hurriedly claims the wallet as his, but Hwang's mood shifts dark. He's convinced Gil-soo had the nerve to go on a date after what happened to his precious Bang Bang. Gil-soo reacts with surprise and tries to explain that it's all a misunderstanding. However, Hwang doesn't listen and instead steps forward, declaring he'll hit him until he's honest. Realizing he can't get caught, Gil-soo quickly dodges when Hwang tries to grab his leg. Impressed, the guy comments on how Gil-soo has gotten better at dodging. Just then, Jang Mi shouts from behind, demanding to know what's happening. Hwang curses under his breath at her shouting while Gil-soo frantically yells for her to stay back since it's dangerous. Even so, Jang Mi points out that Gil-soo did say it was a misunderstanding. Before she can come closer, Hwang's two guys block her path, saying their leader is fighting and she isn't allowed to interrupt. Annoyed, Jang Mi angrily demands they move aside. One of the boys laughs and says it would be rude to hit a girl, so she should just stand quietly. In response, Jang Mi attacks with a powerful strike, reminding him that she told him nicely to move. The boy blocks her attack and smirks, saying he won't feel guilty now that he knows she's skilled. Jang Mi, unfazed, notes that it's been a long time since she went all out. Meanwhile, Gil-soo starts running toward her, shouting at them not to lay a finger on her. However, before he can reach her, Hwang grabs him by the shirt from behind, suggesting they should let the others have fun since Gil-soo's opponent is him. With that, he pulls and hurls Gil-soo aside while calling him cutie. At that moment, Gil-soo realizes Hwang isn't listening at all, and decides he has no choice left. He'll have to fight and win. The scene shifts to Kang entering a room where his father sits. His father, Kang Hyuk, the boss of the Gang Unclan organization, asks whether Kang remembered to meet his older brother. The boy confirms that he has, adding that his brother seems to be doing well. In response, his father instructs him to send any requested resources properly. However, when Hyuk asks about good news, Kang barely begins to speak before his father cuts him off, mentioning how Kang's brother was already dominating school at his age and had proven his capabilities by requesting business responsibilities. As usual, Kang listens quietly while his father continues, declaring that he has no intention of assigning any position to someone who can't even rule a school with his own strength. Consequently, Kang grows increasingly angry at the constant comparison. His father always praises his older brother and belittles him, insisting he is worthless by comparison. Eventually, Kang responds by assuring his father not to worry, since he also has his own plans. Meanwhile, the fight scene resumes with Huang shouting and attacking Gilsu repeatedly. Gilsu dodges with great difficulty, and Huang warns that once he catches him, it will be over. Soon after, the guy grabs Gilsu's waist and leg, attempting to throw him backward, but he's surprised when Gilsu manages to move his leg just in time. Gilsu apologizes and says that won't work anymore, thinking about how lowering his stance allows him to react quickly to incoming attacks, a technique widely used in the fighting arena. Even so, Huang still manages to catch his leg and suddenly lifts him up, mocking the idea that Gilsu thought he could stop him. Without hesitation, he hurls Gilsu into the water. Before Gilsu can get back up, Huang rushes in again, grabs his face and dunks it underwater, making him struggle to breathe. Huang laughs and asks whether Gilsu actually thinks he's above him just because he managed to land a few hits. He goes on to explain that Gilsu clearly doesn't understand how he earned his current position. At this point, a flashback begins, showing a young Huang walking to school while he explains that he used to be smaller and weaker than everyone else, which made him an easy target for bullies. Back then, the bad kids mocked him for his height, barely reaching 160 centimeters, and even called him cute. As the flashback continues, Huang reveals that everything began simply because he was considered cute, and in a school where strength meant everything, he naturally ended up at the bottom. Eventually, after being bullied repeatedly, he realized that to fight a monster, he had to become one himself. From that moment onward, he trained relentlessly, learning techniques suited for his smaller build and pushing himself through harsh routines. Gradually, the people who once mocked him began trembling before him. The scene then shows Huang teaching his former bullies a lesson, demanding to know who's cute now. Returning to the present, Huang declares that anyone who touches him will be beaten until they become cute. However, just as he's about to attack, Gilsu quickly fills his mouth with water and spits it directly into Huang's face, forcing him to step back. Immediately after, Gilsu backs away, panting, and tells Huang that he understands he's furious about the bike, but insists, again, that it really wasn't him who did it. Gilsu grows angry, thinking that he only managed to buy a little time, and that if he gets caught again, he's done for. At that moment, while he's distracted, Huang suddenly grabs him by the waist and pushes him backward, asking where he's looking, and calling him the cutest of all his recent opponents. As Gilsu struggles, he tries to free his hand and quickly realizes that the pillar behind him gives him an advantage. Because of this, he laughs and calls Huang a cute monster, all while thinking that he needs to make sure he focuses solely on him. However, hearing the word cute instantly infuriates Huang, since it's the word he despises most. In response, he angrily presses down on Gilsu with full force, making him scream in pain, and declares that Gilsu must think he's above him. Despite the pain, Gilsu manages to grab both of Huang's hands. The guy, confused, can't understand why, until Gilsu suddenly shouts for someone to kick him. Right then, Jang appears behind them, springing in with a powerful jump. Huang quickly glances back and sees his two boys lying beaten on the ground. Realizing what's coming, he reacts in fear just before Jang unleashes a devastating kick that sends him flying. After landing, Jang angrily declares that her mood had been good today, but they ruined everything, and she'll never forgive them. Right after, Gilsu asks if she's okay, and Jang casually dismisses it as nothing while commenting on how good their combo was. Meanwhile, Gilsu can't help thinking she's incredible for taking everyone down in an instant. A moment later, they start climbing the stairs when Jang wonders why those guys suddenly attacked him, especially since they seem to be from Jinsang High. Gilsu laughs and says it's a long story. Before he can continue, Huang calls out from behind, demanding to know where they're going. Both of them react in shock, and Jang remarks that she struck him perfectly. Gilsu curses while Huang laughs, claiming the blow only made him itch and isn't nearly enough to take him down. Immediately, Gilsu pushes Jang back, warning her that it's dangerous. Without hesitation, Huang rushes forward, grabs Gilsu by the throat and slams him down hard while demanding that he keep playing. In pain, Gilsu thinks about how this monster proves he's still no match for him, even after believing he had grown stronger. At the same time, Jang shouts for Huang to let Gilsu go, but the guy kicks her hard in the stomach, sending her flying backward while laughing that he's simply returning what he received. He then lifts Gilsu onto his shoulder, making him think that today might truly be the day he dies. Just as Huang prepares to slam him down again, a bike suddenly speeds toward them. Upon seeing his bike, Huang freezes in shock and the rider passes directly between them, forcing him to release Gilsu. Furious, Huang shouts, demanding to know who dares ride his bike. In response, the rider tells him to understand what's right before picking fights. Gilsu reacts in surprise, recognizing Park, who firmly declares that no one should touch the wrong person without a proper reason. A flashback from 1 hour earlier shows Park playing at a PC cafe and losing a match. Frustrated, he angrily complains about how terrible his teammates are before wondering if he should go get some ramen. Just then, someone places a hand on his shoulder, and Park turns to look at the boy. Without explanation, the boy walks away, saying Park isn't the one he's looking for either. This, however, only makes Park angrier, especially since he already lost a ranked game. Irritated, he gets up and demands to know who touched him. The boy calmly explains that he was confused because Park is also wearing Six Gate's uniform, and tells him to mind his own business and start another match. Hearing this, Park reacts with shock. The boy then raises his middle finger, acknowledging that Park is upset from losing but insisting he has no business with him. In response, Park grabs the boy's shirt, angrily asking if he wants to die. The boy immediately reacts with fear, explaining that he's busy and questioning why Park is so angry when he's clearly looking for someone else. Curious and irritated, Park demands to know who he's looking for. So the boy shows his phone displaying Gilsu's student ID. Instantly, Park freezes in shock, then grabs the boy's hand tightly, demanding to know who he is and why he's searching for Gilsu. Instead of answering, the boy laughs and says it's none of Park's business. Park is about to punch him when someone else suddenly places a hand on his shoulder from behind. Turning around, Park sees that it's Hwang's guys, who warns him that the boy already said it's not his business. Annoyed, Park laughs angrily about how many people have touched his shoulder today, yet declares that he needs to know anyway. The next scene shows the same boy in bad condition, a large bump on his head, apologizing repeatedly. In response, Park tells them that they've completely misunderstood the situation. Hwang immediately demands to know if Park is implying that someone else is responsible. To clarify, Park explains who the real culprits are, adding that he was actually protecting the bike. However, Hwang shouts angrily, accusing Park of trying to fool him since Gilsu is his friend and he has proof. Calmly, Park counters that he also has proof, then shows his phone with a message from someone ordering him to light up the bike. Park openly admits that he is the real culprit. Upon seeing the message, Hwang curses in fury. Park then mentions that this order came directly from Boxon Group. Hearing the name, Hwang becomes even angrier and grabs Park by the collar, demanding a proper explanation. A moment later, a new scene shows Park has finished explaining everything. Hwang confirms that Boxon Group bribed someone and ordered them to set fire to his bike. Meanwhile, Gilsu holds his throat, reminding them that he had been saying all along that it wasn't him. Hwang curses the Boxon Group for crossing the line. Curious, Park asks who they are and why they're after him. Hwang explains that Boxon Group aims to unite all high schools in the city, and even approached him with the same proposal. At this point, a flashback starts. Someone pours expensive alcohol while a bunch of people crowd around. One of the boys urges Hwang to relax, drink, and have fun. They're all acting friendly, sucking up to him non-stop. Eventually, when Hwang asks who they actually are, the boy tosses him an envelope, calling it a gift, and adds that refusing it would only cause him a whole lot of trouble. Through this, Hwang reveals that the envelope contained an offer to sell Jinsong High to Boxon Group, along with a large amount of money. Immediately, Hwang rejects the offer, calling them stupid, and leaves. The Boxon Group reacted afterward. Jinsong High soon became a target of violence, forced extortion, and all sorts of dirty crimes that left the school completely barren. In the present, Hwang tells them he would rather die than work under Boxon Group, so he's protecting his school on his own, though it hasn't been easy. According to him, the group is massive, having already devoured every high school in the region except Six Gate and Jinsong. He adds that Boxon Group's 5 dragons are especially dangerous, since each one leads a different school. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to Boxon Group headquarters, where 4 of the dragons are gathered. One of them scratches his ear, complaining that Heavenly Wind is useless and can't even complete a simple task. This is the number 5 dragon, Tyrone Quan, the leader of Munjin High School, who had also appeared earlier when Boxon attacked Jang Mi. In response, a bearded man named Choi Nam suggests they should simply go destroy Jin Song, and questions how long they plan to drag things out. He is the number 4 dragon and leads Samhan High School. A moment later, a girl eating a lollipop declares that there's no need for everyone to go, insisting she wants to bully Hwang herself because he's hers. This is Maria, the number 3 dragon who leads Jesong High School. Another boy reacts to her unusual taste, but Maria snaps at him angrily. Trying to steady the situation, the boy explains that they are to stand by regarding Jin Song until receiving orders from above. He reminds them to focus on the present, since this meeting is important and their leader specifically told them not to do anything unnecessary. This is Ten Chai, the number 2 dragon who leads Wandong High School, and who previously made the offer to Hwang. He tells the group to mind their manners. Just then, the door opens and someone steps in, mentioning that this might be the final piece of the puzzle for unifying all of Jung. All 4 dragons turn their attention toward the entrance as Kang walks in, laughing and greeting them as Boxon Group's 5 dragons. Ten Chai laughs and says that meeting the son of the Gangon clan is truly an honor. Right then, someone appears behind Kang, commenting on how flashy the place still looks and how business seems to be going well. This newcomer is none other than Sun Sok from Six Gate High School, who once fought Jang and received a harsh lesson. In response, Ten Chai laughs again and claims the place is just good enough to survive. He then mixes something drug-like into a drink and suggests they relax, since they must be tired. Immediately, Sun picks up the drink, saying it looks good and that this is exactly why he came. However, just as he's about to take a sip, Kang stops him and reminds him they didn't come here to mess around. Sun nods in agreement and puts the drink down. Watching this, Ten Chai thinks to himself that the son of the Gangon clan is definitely different from the others. Eager to move on, Sun suggests they start the discussion because he's going crazy waiting. Ten Chai confirms that they want to dominate Six Gate and need Boxon Group's help to achieve it. As they sit down, Kang mentions that the candy Sun received last time wasn't as effective as expected. Tenchai reacts with surprise and asks if Sun took it properly. In reply, the tank admits it did have an effect, but he still needs more if he wants to defeat Jang Chung. Referencing the drugs he took during their previous fight, a fly appears and Sun waves it away, cursing under his breath. Meanwhile, Tenchai thinks about Jang, wondering if he's really that strong, since his investigation hadn't revealed such power. Suddenly, Tyrone catches the fly in his hands and angrily questions whether they have any manners. Sun asks if that remark was directed at him. In response, Tyrone declares that if they want help, they should come groveling like the fly and demands to know how they dare judge them. Sun stands up furious, calling him full of shit. Seeing the tension rise, Tenchai tells both of them to stop, reminding them that this isn't the place to fight. Kang also tries to calm Sun, who sits back down, claiming that he's already controlled his anger a lot today. Then Kang asks if it's true that there are better quality candies. The pill Tenchai mix turns his drink completely pink, and he grows irritated at the candy references. Noticing Kang's confusion, Tenchai angrily slams the table, demanding that they not think of Boxon Group as mere drug sellers, emphasizing that this is not how they achieve their power. Kang reacts in fear at seeing the table broken with just one hit. Continuing, Tenchai warns them to be careful, explaining that this meeting only happened because their boss has a close relationship with Hanhei, who is currently in the juvenile center. Curious and cautious, Kang questions whether Tenchai is trying to make Gang unclan their enemy. Calmly, Tenchai explains that they haven't acted yet because they trust them, but Six Gate's reputation is impressive due to their background. He adds that in order to conquer Gangun City with its shining past and Jang's presence, he is tempted to help them dominate together, though any deal must be built on trust. Hearing this, Kang responds that Tenchai sounds like he wants something in return. Tenchai laughs and says that they're finally talking business. However, he can't shake hands for free, so if they agree to his specific requirements, he'll consider the deal positively. For now, the exact requirements remain unrevealed. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to Gilsu, who is engaged in intense training and has just reached 80 repetitions. As he trains, he thinks about Boxon Group's plan to dominate all the schools in Jungnyeom, and recalls Huang warning that Jin Sanghai's future would become dark if the Five Dragons actually move forward. Reflecting on this, Gilsu realizes that even someone as fearless as Huang acknowledged the threat, and he admits to himself that he is no match for him. He further understands that without Jang Mi and Park's help, he would have definitely lost. Exhausted, Gilsu falls to the ground, thinking that he's still far from where he needs to be, and that he must become stronger. Just then, Jin and Gyung appear, asking if the training was the important thing he had mentioned. The three gather together, and Jin confirms that Boxon Group is dominating schools in the city one by one. In response, Gilsu explains that, except for Six Gate High and Jinsang High, no other school remains independent, and the dominated schools are now in conditions worse than slaves living in hell. Jung dismisses the threat, saying that Six Gate isn't popular without reason. However, Gilsu admits that while he isn't worried about Six Gate itself, he has been feeling weak lately, especially against opponents skilled in ground fighting techniques. Turning to Jin, he asks if there's any way to counter their technique. Jin thinks for a moment and admits that he also struggles against proper technique, since it is completely different from normal fighting. Hearing this, Gilsu worries that if even Jin says this, there might be no solution. Just then, Jin mentions that he knows someone who is quite familiar with this technique. Curious, Jung asks if he means that particular Sunbae. Surprised, Gilsu asks who this Sunbae is. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to a playground where boys are playing football. Suddenly, their ball rolls in the wrong direction, and one boy yells at another to go get it. The boy apologizes and takes someone with him as they discuss whether it was a goal or just an embarrassing mistake. At that moment, the black-shirted boy stops his companion, noticing that the ball has fallen near the Six Gate student farm. Frustrated, the white-shirted boy curses, questioning why it had to land there of all places. He suggests that they leave, warning that getting involved could be problematic. Agreeing, the black-shirted boy nods and prepares to follow him. Gilsu comes running up just as the two boys start leaving. Seeing them, he looks at them in surprise while they complain about the ruined game and blame each other for the bad kick. Then Gilsu stares ahead and realizes that he has arrived at the student farm. Although the place looks quite intimidating, he enters anyway, introducing himself as first grader Lee Gilsu, and opening the door, saying he came because there's something he wants. Suddenly, a boy behind him angrily demands to know who he is. Turning around, Gilsu asks if he is Sunbae. Without warning, the boy grabs Gilsu's shoulder and presses hard, causing intense pain. Thinking to himself, Gilsu realizes that the grip is incredibly strong. Before he can react, the Sunbae throws him far away, making him fall face first on the ground, then grabs his face and presses it down while asking if he doesn't know the rules. Confused, Gilsu questions which rules the boy means. Calmly but firmly, the Sunbae explains that Six Gate student farm is a restricted area. It is revealed that this boy is No Seong-woo, the third strongest member of the Six Gate Student Council. A flashback from a bit earlier shows Jin telling Gilsu that he knows someone familiar with ground fighting techniques. Hearing this, Jung reacts with surprise and asks if Jin means that particular Sunboy. In response, Jin explains that when Jung gathered Six Gate together, he considered 3 students to be the strongest, known as the Student Council's 3 strongest. First, there is Jeon Hang, who currently runs the Student Council as the arena referee. The other 2 include Six Gate's strongest grappler, a 2nd grader named No Seongwoo Sunboy. Immediately, Jil-soo jumps up, excited at the mention of a strongest grappler, and asks where they live since he's never seen them in the arena. Jin explains that they withdrew from the Student Council due to certain circumstances and are practically living in the student farm barracks behind the school. This is all Jil-soo needs to hear, and he rushes off, shouting about asking them for a duel. Both Jin and Jung try to stop him, as Jin warns him about the dangers of Six Gate's student farm. Back in the present, Sunboy slams Jil-soo onto the ground angrily, asking if he doesn't know that the student farm is a restricted area. Confused, Jil-soo questions what that means. In response, Sunboy grabs him by the clothes and lifts him up, saying he'll let him go this time, since he looks like a 1st grader, but warns him never to come back. Apologetically, Jil-soo bows repeatedly, saying he didn't know. Finally, Sunboy angrily tells him to get out. As he leaves, Jil-soo sadly watches him go, wondering who he really is. Sunboy enters the student farmhouse, thinking about who would dare come here without fear and whether they might be a transfer student. Just then, a voice calls out to him, "Hyung." Turning around, he sees a child sitting beside the bed. His name is Won. Sunboy asks if he got scared and quickly reassures him that everything is okay now. Through his tears, Won explains that he woke up from shouting and got frightened when someone opened the door. Calmly, Sunboy assures him not to worry, as he has already dealt with the situation. Still anxious, Won asks if they are safe now, and Sunboy confirms that he will always keep him safe. To cheer him up, he shows a packet of tteokbokki, Won's favorite. Excitedly, the kid lights up and they sit down together to eat. As they eat, Sunboy asks if it's good, and Won confirms while asking why he isn't eating. Sunboy explains that he's already full from eating a lot during the school meal. Then Won mentions that the food must have been tasty, noting that tomorrow is his birthday and he can't wait to go to school. He asks about gifts and suggests that there should be a present and a surprise party. Laughing, Sunboy tells Juwon that having him there is enough, promising to come right after finishing his part-time job. Thoughtfully, Won adds that it would be nice if Mom could be at the party too. Reacting with shock, Sunboy sadly reminds him that their mom is busy chasing bad people. Acknowledging this, Won accepts it sadly, but Sunboy reassures him that she will come back when everything is resolved and that they should wait patiently. The next morning, Jin playfully hits Gil-soo's hand, laughing about how he should have listened completely, and how he didn't expect Gil-soo to come back after getting beaten. Both of them tease Gil-soo, who complains that it still hurts. Acknowledging this, Gil-soo admits that he didn't know the student farm was a restricted area. In response, Jin mentions that Sunboy wasn't always like this. Curious, Gil-soo asks when this change occurred. Jin explains that from what he heard, he had many friends and was close with other Sunboys until 1st grade. However, when he reached 2nd grade, he suddenly became angry and started living in the student farm, a place where no one is allowed inside, not even Jang. Impressed, Gil-soo comments that Sunboy's skill is really good, thinking back to how he was defeated with just one hand. Despite this, Jin suggests finding someone else who is good at ground techniques. But Gil-soo insists on learning from someone capable enough to make him strong quickly. A few days later, Sunboy leaves school while someone in a hoodie watches him. It is revealed that the person observing him is Gil-soo, who has decided to start his operation today after spending several days investigating Sunboy. Through his research, various students told him that they used to be close with him but don't know much about him anymore. Additionally, Park mentions seeing him once at the Barbecue Cube restaurant doing part-time work. Hearing this, Gil-soo reacts with surprise, intrigued by Sunboy's part-time job. At Barbecue Cube restaurant, customers praise the meat and compliment the part-timer's good work. Smiling, Sunboy serves them and tells them to enjoy their meal. Meanwhile, outside, Gil-soo watches, thinking about how much Sunboy smiles while working and wondering if this is really the same person he saw at Student Farm. Suddenly, someone slams their hand on a table, calling for the part-timer. Looking over, Sunboy sees 2 gangster-looking men sitting there, with one of them demanding that he come grill their food. Angrily, Sunboy asks how they even know he's here. In response, the man laughs, saying he didn't want to play hide-and-seek and was forced to come all this way because they couldn't figure out where Sunboy lives. Curious, Gil-soo wonders who these people are. One of the men comments that Sunboy is better than his mother, since at least he pays interest while hiding, unlike his mother, who keeps taking more loans. He adds that at least she left behind a good son. From this, it's revealed that Sunboy's mother has taken many loans, and these men are loan sharks, which explains why he has to keep running to avoid payment. Angrily, Sunboy asks why they're here, pointing out that he already sent last month's interest. The other man laughs, asking why he's so nervous, and whether he really thinks they came just to collect money. Calmly, the first man tells him to relax, and explains that they're actually sad they won't have business with him anymore, because some people came and bought all his debt. Shocked, Sunboy asks what they mean by buying his debt. The man opens a soju bottle, explaining that it wasn't a bad deal since it was only a small amount a kid had to pay. He adds that it seems someone finds Sunboy valuable and wants something from him, which shows they are businessmen with manners. Thinking to himself, Sunboy reflects that he has never heard of such a thing, and wonders who it could be. Just then, the man mentions that when they bought the debt, they asked them what was most precious to him. He continues, saying they were told about the small child he takes care of instead of his mother. They laugh loudly, but suddenly the glass breaks. Angrily, Sunboy grabs the man's collar, warning him not to involve Juan in this mess. The man suggests that Sunboy should go back instead of escalating the situation. Without hesitation, he throws him down and grabs his coat, leaving while threatening to kill them all if anything happens to Juan. He rushes out and starts running. From behind, Gilsoo watches as Sunboy thinks that this absolutely cannot happen because that place is very difficult to find. Finally, Sunboy arrives at the student farmhouse and bursts through the door, shouting for Juan. However, the place is completely empty, with no sign of the child. Growing worried, he thinks it's impossible, since even the loan sharks didn't know about this place. Meanwhile, at a different location, Juan walks happily down the road with a paper rooster he made, talking about finally getting beautiful colored paper and hoping his brother will like it for the surprise birthday party. Suddenly, 3 shadows appear behind him. A voice calls out to the child, and Juan looks up to see 3 gangster-like men laughing at him. The fat one claims that they are his brother's friends, and asks if he'd like to play with them. Meanwhile, Sunbae runs through the streets, searching for Juan and shouting his name. Exhausted, he mutters to himself about how he had told the boy not to wander outside. Just then he hears Juan calling for him. Overjoyed, Sunbae rushes forward, asking where he went since he was so worried. Apologetically, Juan explains that he wanted to give him a surprise party. Relieved, Sunbae hugs him and reminds him that just having Juan is enough. Seeing him safe, he feels a wave of relief wash over him. Meanwhile, Juan laughs and mentions that his brother's friends helped him come here safely. He then looks back at 3 men who introduce themselves and ask to have a deep conversation. The speaker is Kim Duok, an executive of Boxon Group who stands 190 centimeters tall and weighs 120 kilograms. Recalling the past, Sunbae remembers the loan shark mentioning that someone bought all his debt. Putting the pieces together, he realizes that these are the people who bought it. Explaining the situation, the fat man says that from now on, Sunbae will pay his debt to Boxon Group, essentially making them his new master. Sunbae starts to leave, telling them to stop talking nonsense, since he won't give money to strangers. Thinking quickly, he considers avoiding commotion to keep Juan safe. However, the fat guy grabs Juan's hand and takes his paper rooster, laughing about not letting such a small gift go. He then begins folding the paper, while Juan cries and begs for his brother's birthday gift back. Without hesitation, the man completely crushes the paper and throws it down, lecturing the child about how the world isn't easy when your guardian has neither money nor support. Heartbroken, Juan picks up the crushed paper as Sunbae grows furious and starts cursing. At that moment, Gulsoo comes running from behind and delivers a powerful kick to the fat guy, who blocks it with both arms. Surprised, Sunbae reacts to Gulsoo's sudden intervention. Thinking quickly, Gulsoo recalls how opening the doors and seeing the toys revealed why Sunbae had restricted entry to the student farm. He was secretly raising a child. Angrily, the fat guy demands to know who Gulsoo is. Calmly, Gulsoo tells Sunbae that since this isn't student farm, it should be okay for him to intervene. But first, he declares that he'll clean up this trash. A flashback shows first-year Sunbae struggling to live alone. This was when he first met Juan. In the scene, a child sits in front of him, and Sunbae reads a note from his mom saying she is leaving the child with him, and that he can send him to an orphanage if raising him proves difficult. Angrily, Sunbae thinks there should be a limit to leaving a child in his care. His mom was his only family, but he lost contact with her long ago because she always brought new boyfriends home. To survive, he did odd jobs, although he acknowledges that it would have been reasonable to hand over a complete stranger to an orphanage, since he didn't have the means to take care of him. Just then, Juan tells him that he is the brother their mom mentioned, and that he is family. Shocked, Sunbae reacts as seeing the child reflected his own childhood. Lovingly, he tells Juan that from today, they are family. He couldn't let go of the child whose wounds mirrored his own. With Jang's help, he acquired the student farm and began living there secretly. Despite the harsh circumstances, he never regretted it, because Juan's presence became his only reason to endure such a difficult life. In the present, Sunbae puts his hand on Gilsoo's shoulder and asks him to protect Juan, even if just for a moment. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Gilsoo agrees, while thinking about whether Sunbae will fight them all alone. Suddenly, a rabbit-toothed boy charges at Sunbae, claiming that he's just acting cool and needs to be beaten back to his senses. Quickly, Sunbae catches his punch, and the boy is surprised by the high grip strength. Without hesitation, Sunbae grabs and twists his hand, making him scream. Angrily, Sunbae tells them all that they should be grateful, since Juan is the only reason they're still alive. Meanwhile, another boy rushes forward, shouting and attacks with a kick. Skillfully, Sunbae dodges by leaning back. However, the boy continues kicking repeatedly, while Sunbae blocks with both hands. Watching worriedly, Gilsoo thinks that this opponent is better than expected, with very fast kicks. Proudly, the boy mentions that he participated in an international taekwondo competition as he happily continues kicking. Eventually, he manages to kick Sunbae down, prompting Won to shout and move forward. Reacting quickly, Jil-soo stops him, thinking how difficult it is to fight someone who specializes in kicks. Then, Sunbae traps the boy's leg with both of his legs and asks if this was his technique, before twisting it hard enough to make him scream. Calmly, Sunbae calls this his favorite move. Immediately, Jil-soo covers Won's eyes while realizing that Sunbae fell down on purpose. After dealing with the first two, only the fat guy remains. Laughing, he remarks that he had just planned to introduce Boxon group today, but now he's forced to take action. Without hesitation, he rushes forward and grabs Sunbae. Surprised, Jil-soo thinks that this opponent is a different weight class and that he should go help. However, Sunbae dodges the attack and wraps both legs around the fat guy's neck, making him groan in pain. The boy struggles, thinking he can't breathe. Angrily, Sunbae declares that he won't be able to stay calm if threatened like this. The scene depicts him hunting like a crocodile, with foam coming from the fat guy's mouth. Calmly, Sunbae tells him to ask for money politely if he wants it. Watching in shock, Jil-soo stares with his mouth hanging open, realizing he didn't know Sunbae was this powerful. Meanwhile, the scene cuts to a club where someone talks on the phone, asking how everything is going. He reacts with surprise when the fat man on the other end walks in, supporting the Taekwondo boy and apologizing for underestimating Sunbae's strength. It is revealed that the club man is Taeran-kun, Boxon Group's number 5 dragon. He questions why they came back after getting beaten. The fat guy requests another chance, but Taeran tells him that there's a rumor about Seungbu being one of Six Gate's powerful people, and it seems accurate. He then orders them to return to the Coliseum and wait for punishment for failing the mission. Although the fat guy tries to protest, Taeran cuts the phone and turns around, commenting on how embarrassing it is that they always fail against Six Gate. Looking down, he sees a fighting arena where an illegal fight is taking place. There, one fighter is the same boy Jil-soo defeated when he tried to lift Jang Mi. Laughing, Taeran remarks that a player reaching his expiry period can be exchanged for someone new, revealing that his business involves bringing people to fight in illegal matches for profit.